I'd like to open the ABR for today, January 24th, 2011, starting with general business, election of officers. Is Jaime making when is he coming in on the agenda? He wanted
to ask you about a color sample for a project.
So I'll come lower down before we start the items?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so election of officers. I guess the board is open to taking nominations.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We'll take nominations. If we get more than one nomination for the position, we can do it on a paper ballot. But if we just get one nomination, you can just take a voice vote.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I'd like to nominate Christopher Manson-Hing for chairman for another year.
Nominate Clay Arell for chair.
So how's the order? Do we go for?
So that's it. We just have two nominees for chair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can give you these. I'm going to write down your choice.
But
Paul's not here.
Yes, sir.
Oh, he's here now.
Just wait for
So
Paul.
let's wait for him. Catch him up.
Paul, we just had, or we just opened for election of members for chair, and there is one for myself and one for Clay.
So we're taking a vote.
Wait. So, unless you have another nomination. Okay, so now we're taking a vote for Clay or myself. And the people who are nominated get to.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I counted those ballots. We have 4 votes for Chris Manson-Hing and 3 for Clay Arell. So I guess you're chair again.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So we go on to the next.
We need to appoint a vice chair.
Okay, so I'd like to nominate Don Sherry for vice chair. Any other nominations for vice?
No other nominees. Okay, we can just take a voice vote. All those in favor of Don Sherry as vice chair?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Do we go on to subcommittee members or?
Item B is consent calendar and subcommittee appointments. We could do either one of those first, whichever one you'd rather do.
Let's go on to the subcommittee members. This way we get all the appointments out of the way.
Okay.
Standing subcommittee, we have Design Awards, NextG Microcell Telecommunications, I think. Is that over, Jaime? NextG?
They have all the building permits issued.
Subcommittee.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. So unless they have some issues with respect to while they're building them,
Yes.
we probably not. There won't be a need to reconstitute that.
Okay. So maybe the best thing to do is just say who's on these committees right now and see if anybody wants to make a change. Is that it? That'd be the best way to handle it? Instead of going through them one by one. So on the standing subcommittees, on the Design Awards, we have myself. Right now there's no alternate. Is anyone else interested? in
Which one?
the design awards. Okay, we'll leave that the same. Next G is Paul Zink and myself, alternates. Gary Mosel is the lead. That's going to be phased out pretty soon, so I don't see a need to really change that up. Highway 101 joint subcommittee is myself and Chris Gilliland. I'm comfortable staying on it. Chris? Simple staying on it. We have ad hoc subcommittees, Lower Mission Creek Design. I'm on that. I'm fine on it. If anybody else has an interest, let me know. No?
I actually have an interest.
You, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay, so Gary could assist me then on
Anything going on?
Lower Mission Creek. We have solar. Gary's on solar. Street light is Dawn. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. So that's the subcommittees. On the liaisons, we have consent calendar right now is Orel and Gary Mosel. And consent landscape review is Chris Gilliland. Any changes there?
I'd like to step down.
So Gary'd like to come down.
Mr. Chair, I'll take Gary's spot in the consent.
So Keith is taking Gary's on ABL consent calendar. Thanks Keith. Sign committee, we have Dawn Sherry with alternates, Keith for ABR. Are you okay there?
I'm
or-
okay staying on it because it takes a while to get into it. So
You all right?
may
Okay.
as well stay on it.
Visual arts in public places, we have Paul with no alternate. You right? Okay, so alternate on the visual arts in public places will be Gary.
Between Gary and me, we'll figure out who the main person is and who's the alternate.
Okay. Okay, great. So that completes the.
I may need another subcommittee.
Yeah, another subcommittee.
This might be
Okay.
the appropriate time to raise this issue.
Okay.
I'll remember, I'm a Limon Senior Planner, the Clay Boiselle Bikeway. Jake. Sorry. Looking at you. Your votes. The bikeway path had some faux sandstone that was approved by this board, and the Public Works Department has shown me a sample. And I thought it'd be best to have you look at it because it didn't look sandstone to me, but who knows. They also have a cap on this wall that they'd also like to have. So I thought maybe you could appoint someone or one or two individuals to work with me to make sure we get the sandstone, faux sandstone. Apparently there's some different manufacturers out there that you can use to come up with the right color and mix.
Okay,
That if you can do that. Right
no
now.
problem. Do we have any?
There's the Duracast stone that's going to send over these samples, but I was just speaking to Mr. Cunningham before the meeting. He says that they worked hard to find some faux sandstone for some colored concrete at the Cottage Hospital project. So I'm getting that information just to make sure we have samples, different samples. If we've approved it over there, maybe it might be acceptable for that wall.
Okay,
So I just need to have somebody sort of bless it before they put it.
okay,
And then all of a sudden we have a problem with it.
okay. Any member has a interest here? Okay, we have Chris. Anybody else? Go. Okay, Chris.
Or with Chris on it. Thank
All
you.
right.
In contact with you.
Thanks very much. So
Thank
Chris
you.
will be. All right. So, we go on to. We did subcommittee appointments. Consent calendar then.
Okay. Sure. Last week, it would have been January 18th, but we didn't have any agenda items, so we didn't have a consent calendar.
Oh, actually, sorry, Tony. I'm just mixing up consent calendar and subcommittee appointments. I see right in here item C, public comment. Is that I'll just say that any member of the public would like to approach the board on an item that's not on today's agenda. Seeing no one, I'd like to. Okay. Oh, this is the. Yeah. Okay. Seeing no one, I'd like to close that portion. Bring back to item D, and then we'll do the approval of the minutes of the ABR. And so I'd like to get a motion to open the minutes of January 10th, 2011.
So, Mr. Chair.
First by Keith, second by Clay. So anything before item 1? Item 1. Item 2, 513 Garden Street. Item 3, Calle Cesar Chavez. Item 4, 120 South Hope. Item 5, 6, and that adjourned. All those in favor of the minutes as reviewed, say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. So that would then bring us to consent agenda of January 24th.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For consent calendar today, we had item A, 608 Anacapa Street, was continued 2 weeks. Item B, 3943 State Street, got a project design approval with a condition. And item C, 936 San Pascual, got final approval with conditions. Consent today was reviewed by Clay Orell and Chris Gilliland.
Great. Thanks very much. All those in favor of those minutes, say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. Okay. Who'd like to open those
I'll make
consent?
that motion, Mr. Chair.
First by Keith, second by Clay. Brings us to item F, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items and appeals. Nothing.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I need to step down from item number 1, and I need to be at MBAR at 4 o'clock today, so I'll be gone for the rest of the day after that.
Okay. Thanks, Clay.
Mr. Chair, we do have one change to the agenda. The applicant for item 2, 29 North Milpas Street, requested to be postponed 2 weeks.
I see. Okay.
So that'll be February 7th.
Okay. Yes.
I need to leave around 5 o'clock.
So it'll be probably after the 826 Delavina project that I will be slipping away.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. So we have a subcommittee report, and Chris is going to give a subcommittee report on the Highway 101 situation.
I didn't say anything yet. Start over. Mr. Chair, fellow board members, my name is Chris Gilliland. I'm on the 101 DRT. And basically, we had a meeting last week with the entire design review team and Caltrans, and what they're proposing to do is add a third lane on the northbound side at Salinas Street. Previously, there were 2 lanes approved with a significant amount of landscaping, and in order to include that third lane, there's a lot of landscaping that will be eliminated. And so we're kind of pushing back a little bit. Our main concern is retaining planting in the median between the southbound and northbound lanes, and getting as much landscaping back while still trying to allow them to have that third lane. So there's 2 plans here. The top plan with the blue shows, the blue areas are the landscaping to be eliminated if that third lane is allowed. And as you can see, it's fairly substantial, especially on the northbound side. I objected to losing this much landscaping, as did Phil Suding from the HLC. Phil's view is that if we can get some landscaping back in the median, he'd be okay with losing along the wall. And to me, that it still wasn't quite enough, because what we end up with here is just a wall with some vines on it, rather than some nice layered planting that had been proposed and approved. And then the second plan here shows the landscaping to be approved if the third lane is allowed. And that the revised landscaping is shown in green. And I'll point out that there's an area shown here where it's blue. It's 720 feet where there would be no median planting at all. And along the sound wall here would simply be the vines trained up on the walls. And again, back in this area, it's just the vines on the walls as well. With that approval, there would have to be a removal and relocation of a portion of the sound wall, just to allow view angle into the Salinas Street from the on-ramp there, or the off-ramp, sorry. And so basically, that's kind of where we are. We're finished up with Caltrans, and they're going to come back with possibly another proposal. They did not budge, and one of the things we kept trying to push is, they have a safety requirement that we have a 10-foot shoulder on each side, and we try to get them to go 9 feet, 8 feet. They won't budge on that. So, the amount of landscaping would be significantly reduced within this area if that third lane is allowed. And so that's what I'm presenting here today for you.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Any questions? I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Harry?
Well, the landscaping loss would be great, and I thought that we did have Santa Barbara does have an ordinance for that particular area, that the median landscaping, or at least it's a guideline, maybe not an ordinance, that median landscaping is supposed to remain there in that area. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that there's an adjustment in the road or something that can be done to retain that landscaping?
Well, that was part of the discussion. Basically, the railroad owns the southbound, the south side of the southbound lane, so there's no room to push out there. And basically, the answer to your question is no. There's really nowhere to go. The sound walls are in place, and there's only so much room in between.
Is there going to be landscaping? I know we approved this a long time ago. Is there going to be landscaping in front of those floating dams on the retaining walls, on the sound walls?
The original proposal had that planting kept off of that wall because those are floodgates. They need to open up in the case of a flood. And so any landscaping that was proposed was outside of that zone.
So we'd be losing that.
We'd be losing that planting as well.
So even what we were hoping to screen,
those
that
doors.
That sound wall and that doors is going to disappear.
Yes.
Wow, that's a disappointment.
Yeah. Well, it's not set in stone yet, and we're objecting to this. So that's, to me, one of the points that I brought up is that this is sort of the gateway to the city. This is right before you get into the Milpas area, and if it's, to me, it's like a concrete bathtub in there without any planting. It's very stark, and it's not Santa Barbara-esque. This is a historic parkway, and to lose that median planting especially would be very detrimental, I think.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Are we just adding another lane for a very short amount of time that is the only place where there isn't 3 lanes, or does it just extend the 3 lanes just a little bit further before it goes back to 2?
It extends the 3 lanes a little bit further. Right now, as you approach off of Salinas, the on-ramp for Salinas, there would be 3 lanes from there to Milpas. And basically this proposal allows a 3rd lane as you go by the Salinas exit.
And then there are places on both sides that are back to 2 lanes.
I think just on the south side. of this exit. So from here forward into the city would all be 3 lanes, and that's been approved already to be 3
Right,
lanes.
so it would just be extending the 3 lanes farther south
Right.
a little bit. Because I guess my question is, have they talked about what that's going to give us in terms of relief of congestion part?
No,
congestion part?
they haven't given us a whole lot of
Because there's-
statistics or information regarding
It
the
seems
great
like it would be
benefit.
beneficial to ask them what the benefits are when we're asked to give up something, when they're asking to give up something.
Right.
Is
And
it,
of course, there is a long-term proposal to, put 3 lanes on both sides all the way to Carpinteria. And if this doesn't pass now, then that would be incorporated into that proposal. And at that point, they would have to purchase land, especially where this RV park is, to then move the sound walls to allow for the 3rd lane in the appropriate landscaping.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I guess my thoughts are the congestion problem we significantly have is southbound traffic, not northbound traffic. So because of the beauty of people entering our city, having 2 lanes in the landscaping is important. And we're not talking about congestion relief going south on the issue. So I have a difficulty agreeing with what their thoughts are, because we're not alleviating a significant amount of traffic if we're just extending it just to a couple thousand
Mr.
feet.
Chair,
Okay. Yeah.
this is a report, and this item is actually going to be scheduled on a future agenda for you to actually officially comment on.
Okay.
So I would hesitate on formulating any opinions until the entire presentation is made, and the long-term implications are also given to you, because there is another project as been indicated. So it's either now or later, and that's
Yeah.
really the question that's being discussed. Should we do it now?
Right.
And so this is a good opportunity to get a little bit better understanding about what the proposal is, so you can go out and look at it. So when they do come in, you'll have a little bit better understanding of what the proposal is.
Okay. Good.
And it needs a coastal development permit, so it will be going to Planning Commission also.
Okay, great.
So
Chris?
I'll hold on to these plans, and if anybody wants to take a closer look,
Yeah.
I'll have them.
Thanks very much for the presentation. Okay, so that brings us to the end of general business and to the first item of the evening, 432 West Islay Street.
Guess I'll pass.
Yep. You want to go ahead?
Brian Nelson, project architect.
Faye Perry, owner.
Jack Kiesel, project landscape architect.
Thank you. Proceed.
All right. Does staff want to make any comments on this? I know, was Kelly here? He's not here now. Okay. We have been working a long time with staff and come to some conclusions, and that's why we're back before you today, because the project has changed in a couple of small ways. And it had to do with the Mission Creek at the back of the project. So I'm going to walk you through the project. I know there's 2 new board members that haven't seen this before. So I'd like to walk you through the project, and I gave you 11 by 17 so we don't have to keep looking at the overhead. The project is at the end of West Islay Street up against the freeway sound wall. And that's an important thing when we come to talking about some modifications. So it's the very last property up against the sound wall. And what isn't indicated on this map, which you will see on the site plan, is that there is a cul-de-sac here. And so a portion of this property was taken for right-of-way. So the front portion of this was taken for right-of-way. And then this is Mission Creek. And in the back, there's this big triangle of land that is maintained by the county of Santa Barbara, owned and maintained by the county. And it comes all the way down by the freeway here. And so this has significant vegetation, which we'll show you in photographs in just a moment. So it's important that you understand it's up against the freeway, 12-foot high wall, plus another 3 feet of vines on top of that are growing up above the wall. And then we have the take for the cul-de-sac at the end of the street. So that's the first page. If you go to the second page in the presentation, it should be this color. And I think this is important for you to see. This should be the second page. At the end of the cul-de-sac, there's the cul-de-sac. Here's 101. The sound wall runs all the way along here, all the way up to Mission Street. And this is Mission Creek coming down behind. And so this is the existing residence that's there. And if you see all of the greenery on 101, some of that's on the wall, some of that is planting in front of the wall, and some of that is planting on this side of the wall. So they have the wall covered with vines. You can't see the block wall hardly at all anymore. And it's covered with ivy. And then there's significant vegetation back in this corner that's actually on the neighbor's property. You'll see some major palm trees back here, and Jack will talk about the landscaping in a few minutes. And then there's major sycamore trees that are back in this area, and we'll show you that in photographs. And I say all that because it impacts this site. If this was another site across the street and you backed up to another property that had residential behind it, it makes a big difference in the feeling of this property, because you do have all this open space, which is Mission Creek, and the flat area on top of the bank behind Mission Creek. So I think that's important for you to understand. If you go to the next image, you will see the photographs. This is taken from the street. This is the existing residence. And again, you can see this is around the cul-de-sac. The amount of vegetation, these are actually the vines growing on the wall that are extended up in the air. So they're above the wall. And then you can see the size. This tree is in the cul-de-sac, and all these trees back here are in Mission Creek or on the neighbor's property in the case of that large palm tree that's back there. And then there's a significant hedge between this property and the property to the right, to the what we would call the west side of the property. There's a significant hedge that runs down there, pretty much the full length of where we'd be doing development. The next thing I'd like to point out is across the street from this property, starting here at the cul-de-sac, it's a two-story building up to the setback, a two-story building up to the setback, a two-story building up to the setback, a two-story building up to the setback. So when we have a two-story building up to the setback, it's not something new for the neighborhood, so to speak. The next photograph I'd like to hand you, well, I think you have it in your packet. I think you all have this one. Maybe you don't have this one. What you do have is this one, and I'll show you this other one in a minute. Again, this is taken from right behind the existing house looking toward Mission Creek at the back. And I think it's important that you understand this is the garage that's at the back, and there's a gazebo back here still that were built. This was not permitted. This is a permitted structure that's back there that sits on the back property line in what we are now going to have to address with the geomorphology study. Back in the day they built this, obviously they weren't doing geomorphology studies. So, and again, look at the significance of the greenery around the project. This small photo, which you may not be able to see very well on the copies because it's so dark, if you look on the right side here is the driveway that comes down the property to this garage at the back, and this driveway is up against the sound wall with a small planter next to it. And this triangle of land, which you'll see on the site plan, is owned by the city because it's in the cul-de-sac. But it's a part of this project. Even though we can't say that we're going to do landscaping there because the city owns it, if you go out to the site today and look at this area, that landscaping that's in there is maintained by the owner of this property, Ms. Fay Perry. So we can't put it on our plans to say that this project would do anything to enhance that because it's in the city right away. But in reality, this driveway is going to go away, and there's going to be landscaping there, which would benefit, obviously, this condominium association. So that one we can't talk about, but we just did, if you understand what I mean. So when you're looking at the landscape plan, I think that's important.
Okay, just to ask, who has not seen this project before?
The
Chris?
two on the
Keith, okay.
Okay. So this is just another picture showing the amount of vegetation at the back of the property. This was taken a little while ago, but all the trees are still there and they're all significant. And their drip lines, this sycamore tree, the drip line is onto this property significantly. So I think that's important for you to see. And then in your packets, the next thing is a reduction of the site plan. So let's go to that for a moment. I will give you a brief history on what we have been working with staff on this project and the significance of a front yard modification that we're asking for that we need your comments on. And I'm hoping to leave here today with positive comments to Planning Commission because that's where we're headed next.
Okay, I'd just like to, before you delve into that, I'm going to just read the minutes of the last meeting for the board members.
Okay,
before you
that's
delve
fine.
into it. Okay, so this would have been way back in 2008. Okay. Landscaping, the board appreciates the amount of landscaping introduced for the project. Two, the applicant is advised to move both of the proposed maple trees on the north side of Unit C further away from the building to accommodate proper canopy growth. Simplify the proposed palette underneath the existing sycamores near the sycamore root zone. Use of high-quality detailing for fencing and gates that face the street is encouraged and anticipated. Reconsider the nightshade plantings as they are aggressive and may outcompete the other landscaping. And on the architecture, carry forward number 7 from the previous motion, which is the board still has some concerns with the entry for Unit B. Carry forward number 4 from the previous motion. The architecture on the south elevation facing the street requires more depth to make the elevation work as an inviting porch feel as opposed to a stoop and roof eave feel. Applicant to study the condition and return with further renderings. And 3, applicant to provide wood siding on the second level of the east elevation above the garages. Okay? Thanks.
Since we were here last, what we have been working with staff on through geomorphology studies is the Mission Creek setback at the rear of the property. The standard setback in the past has been 25 feet. We believed from the beginning that we could stay with 25 feet. We ended up not being able to through many conversations with staff. So we had to move this 25-foot setback to 30 feet, and that's where we are today, which obviously pushed the project forward. So
we might mention, though, that the geomorphology report also supported the 25-foot setback twice.
So I want you to see here, this is the existing garage and accessory space, and this is that existing gazebo that you saw at the back in those photographs. Notice that they are all in that 30-foot setback. So things that are now next to Mission Creek are going away to enhance the area behind this project and between Mission Creek and this project. And you can see the sycamore trees that are all on the county property whose drip line comes way over into this project. So that's what we have been working on since those minutes were last taken. In order to do this, and you can see because of the angle of the creek, we've had with a 20-foot garage for each of these for access, 20 feet inside the garage. We're bound with what's left between a front yard setback and this 30-foot setback to put the building in after you put in 3 garages. So all of that said, what I'd like to do is just walk you through the project one step at a time. Before we were asking for a modification.
We need to just address the concerns because we're behind.
Yeah. Can you just address the items on here?
Yes.
Because this isn't changed. In other words, whatever changes you made were in reply to this.
Some of them were, but the majority of them were in 5 more feet of setback, and therefore the building to the front. She's here. Hi.
Assistant planner. Sorry, I was here earlier and then I left during the nominations. The board has seen this project a few times, last, I think, in 2008. And at that time, the applicant was requesting a modification for an interior setback along the Highway 101 privacy wall or sound wall, which they're still asking for. And they were also asking for a modification in the front yard, let's see, to allow some of the private outdoor living space to encroach into the front yard there. And we were also working with the applicant regarding a 30-foot setback from the top of bank. In this case, staff and the Creeks Division did not feel that 25 feet was sufficient because this site is located on the outside of a major bend in Mission Creek, and there's a high threat of erosion in this area. So in working with the applicant, she was already requesting a modification in the front yard setback. So they came to a revised design where they were able to actually encroach 5 feet into the front yard setback with the second story and the first story. I think the second story is set back a little. And then that way they could meet the 30-foot setback at the back. So the last time that the board reviewed this project, we asked you to just comment on the design review and the architecture and refrain from commenting on the setbacks. And so now basically it's been over a year since you've last seen it, and we're getting ready to put this project before the Planning Commission. So we're just asking the board to comment on the modifications and just kind of recertify your previous comments on the architecture and the design and the neighborhood compatibility.
I see. Okay. So maybe first we should deal with the setbacks and the modifications.
Great.
And how
Walk
you
you through
address
those.
them and what we have. And then we will look at the other smaller.
Meeting with staff, we came to an agreement that at the minimum we would have a 7-foot setback from the right-of-way, not from the property line. Property line, old property line, or property line is there, but the right-of-way take for the cul-de-sac is there.
And the required amount is?
Is 10 feet. And so we are asking, here's the 10-foot setback, this line right here. And we are asking for a minimum of 7, but of course other areas are further back than that. So, for instance, here at the corner, we're 10 feet at this first corner. But we have a front porch, which was one of the requests the last time, was to get a porch on the front of this building and not just an overhang. So we have about a 4.5-foot porch plus its overhang, and it comes over to that 7-foot setback, which is about, I think it's 8 feet wide. So we have that as a covered porch, and then this corner, the closest it gets is 7 feet, and it goes back to 8 feet here. So we're 8 feet back from the property line. Again, we're at the end of the street. You can't see past here to see if nothing lines up with other things. So, and this part of the building lines up with the 10 feet of the neighboring building across the driveway on the other side. We also were asking for a modification of a fence in this front yard at 6 feet, and we've decided not to ask for that modification. We're going to do a 3.5-foot fence, which meets the requirements of zoning. This outdoor living space is not required because we have the required outdoor living space on the second floor up here on a deck. Part of that is because of the sound requirements, the exterior decibel requirements, that we couldn't quite reach it here because the 12-foot wall didn't shadow quite enough. So the outdoor living space required is up off the master bedroom on the second floor. I still believe this is a nice place for an outdoor space on the ground level for this unit, so that's why I'd like to keep the patio there. Although because it's not required, we don't have to meet the decibel requirements. So that's what this corner is all about. There's the 7-foot setback, 8 feet to the building here. There's the 10-foot setback along there. The other one that you've already seen and wasn't addressed in the minutes was the setback along the wall. The wall is set back about 3 feet from the property line onto the highway. We have a letter from the state. We've already been through all that, and they support us coming to within 4 inches of the property line for the building itself, for the storage units, one-story storage units with one-story roofs on them. The second floor of the building meets the 6-foot, 4 inches.
You're coming within 4 inches of the property line,
Oh,
not 4 feet.
Right, 4 inches of the property line next to the sound wall. And this was addressed last time and
So
wasn't in the minutes.
this is the property line here.
This is the property line.
So all of this here is beyond the property.
That's correct.
Yeah,
and
I see.
that's in Caltrans space, about 3 feet.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So
your setback would normally be 6 feet inside here. Is that it? Here's your setback here.
Except that in this
Right.
zone, you can have garage space and accessory space within 2 feet of the property line.
But not
So
the
that-
storage of the garage, right?
I'm not sure if that is included in there or not.
I think
okay.
it's just the garage. Am I right? Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Go ahead.
So, that's what's along that side. We have, well, we've already addressed this at the back. So, let's see, there was the front yard setback issue, the side yard setback issue.
Okay, so
and
that's
the
the 2
front
months. Okay, carry forward. Okay, and the okay, just give me- entry for unit B.
Entry for Unit B is here, has a
Yes.
small roof over it, and the paving comes in here. For the driveway, it's a ribbon paving, and that's the front door that you go up steps, and then you're on.
So
this
what,
is open to the second floor.
What changed here?
Not very much. We just put a roof over that. I think the best way is to go to the elevation sheet. It's here. We have an embedded ionic column and the door, and this is a cantilevered second floor, so the door sits back from the cantilevered second floor.
Okay. And then the architecture on the south elevation facing the street requires more depth to make the elevation work as an inviting porch feel as opposed to a stoop and roof eave feel.
Right. Before we had this roof coming all the way across and it was just a cantilevered roof, we now have that porch with the front door and then this gable end, which is 8 feet back from the property line. This is 10 feet back from the property line.
So does this outer area extend?
That's the one that comes to the 7 feet from the property line there.
So it's just this area here?
Yes,
That's the entry?
That's the entry porch. That's correct.
Okay, so it's, all right, okay. I don't know.
All right, then I think Jack Kiesel, unless there's questions for me, I think Jack Kiesel wants to address the landscape issues.
Did you, applicant, to study the condition and return with further renderings? That was a revised rendering?
Yes.
Okay. I'd just like to read this comment out here too. I mean, there was a comment here that says, it was noted that one board member could not support the project as proposed, as it is believed to be too big and aggressive for the site. And regarding the roof elements, applicants should restudy any articulation to scale of the structure, to restudy ways to reduce the mass of the structure. Okay.
Before we had a very long roof line with a cupola in the middle, if you want to go back and look. And we've now broken up that roof line by adjusting plate heights and varying the building in and out. So we now have several jogs in the roof. Oh, I would like to show you one other. I think it's the last one in your. This is the view from the freeway. Except that this was an old photograph that we did the photo sim off of, and actually this is the center median. There's the lanes on the southbound. I took this from the shoulder of the southbound 101. So the furthest back you can get any place on 101 to see this project, that's what you would see. You can see from the other photographs, this one, which is more current, all that vegetation has actually grown back up along here, and so all you're going to see from the shoulder of the southbound is just pieces of the roof line. From the northbound, you won't even be able to see the roof line because of the angle of the wall. So
Okay.
I think that's an important
Okay.
for you to understand. All right, Jack, you want to talk about
Okay.
landscaping?
Sure. And I'll also like to add with that one photo that he was showing there that once the vegetation that we're proposing along that Caltrans corridor there in between the building and the wall, that will even be less apparent. I mean, you'll see less of the structure.
Okay. Okay, let's move through the landscaping. We're running a little bit behind, so.
Okay, if you could turn to the landscape page, please.
L1.1?
No, go one back. One more back is the landscape plan. L1.0.
Basically, I'll just do a little quick overview of the landscape intent, and then deal with the landscape items.
Maybe you can go over just these items here for us. That would be
Okay.
quicker. So, advised to move both of the proposed maple trees on the north side of Unit C further away from the building to accommodate proper canopy growth.
Which I have done. You can see that one maple tree in the back there. Okay.
Here. Over here to the center. So this would be the maple tree right there. So before it was closer to the building, so I moved it back over this way.
Okay. And there's another.
And this is actually showing a fairly generous canopy for this particular species.
Okay.
And then also one of the statements was simplify the landscaping here in the back, which I have done. All the species in here are also, I should add, site-appropriate natives that grow within this particular region and would do well under canopies like sycamores, oaks, or whatnot, and also good along creek banks.
Okay.
Before, if you look at the plan before, I had a lot more diversity here, so I simplified that as per the comments.
Okay. Use of high-quality detailing for fencing and gates that face the street.
And you can see that in either, you can look at my elevation drawing here, or you can also look at the architect's. Here, this is the, you can see right there the detailing from the fencing that's per the architect. Which
Remember that
is,
comment last time was because we had a 6-foot fence there. It was now down to 3.5 feet.
Okay. Reconsider the nightshade plantings as they are aggressive and may outcompete the other landscaping.
I had a few Solomon Xantii, which are, they're native nightshade, but they're really not that aggressive.
Okay.
But I took them out anyway.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I just bring that back to the board then for questions. And public comment. Anyone from the public would like to comment? Seeing no one, I'd bring that back to the board for questions. And just to let the board know, this year I know we've normally started from the left and we've gone down to the right. And I've had a few suggestions that some people would like to mix it up a bit. And I think that mixing up a bit can work as long as everybody stay disciplined and don't jump in 3 and 4 times and stuff like that. And because then they run long. So we start with Keith anyway. See if you're ready.
That being said.
Yeah, because Keith has his finger right on the button. He's ready to go. It's like, all right, Keith.
No question.
Go to it. No questions. Don?
No questions.
Anyone? Who else?
No questions.
I do.
Yeah. Okay, Chris.
Terry? No. The question is actually.
Okay. So
couple
Chris.
questions. Is that on? Doesn't look like it.
I assume it's on our landscape.
No, we'll see if they ring the bell.
Or you can turn this one to you and
Yeah, let's just do that.
put that in front of you.
Thank you. A quick question regarding the area between the structure and the sound wall. Did you not, I guess, feel a need to have circulation going all the way around for maintenance purposes, or is it just not enough room and you want some planting in there?
Yeah, well, because again, that's part of the Caltrans right away in there, and we did get permission from Caltrans to go ahead and plant there. We felt that people really aren't going to be going back there that much, so I think we felt it was more important to kind of get that screening up against that side of the wall for the highway view.
Okay.
So that's why we kind of plant it with those narrow plantings of bamboo and Hymenospermum.
As you can imagine, Caltrans has neglected their landscaping along there, and this project, because it's a homeowners association, there's a better chance it'll be taken better care of.
Right. Okay. And then the patio just at the front of the property there, is there access to that just from the inside of the home, or is there any sort of gate that goes out into where the cul-de-sac is?
There is a gate to the cul-de-sac because that's the right-of-way for 101.
Okay.
So there's a gate that's only used for Caltrans.
Okay. So at the very front of that, okay, I see.
Yeah, it's just in that corner.
Okay.
There has to be a gate for Caltrans to get along that side if
Alright.
they ever need to fix a wall or something.
Okay. And then last question, the elevation, the east elevation, which I guess is page 3. East elevation in front of Unit A, is that showing double doors there towards the front of the structure? And is that the case? I mean, are those...
That is a fake double door. It's hiding the meters.
Got it.
The meters are underneath the stairs.
Okay.
And so it's just a pair of doors that look like a good pair of doors, or it's a faux, but they actually open and the meters are underneath the stairs in there.
Okay.
Or they're
Perfect.
really tight for space, and we thought, let's hide the meters.
Yeah. Good idea. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm ready to take comments.
Mr. Chair, I
Okay, Gary.
well, zip type. The
I'm learning how to do this.
in the garage, this question's more for staff. In the 3-foot area, are they allowed to have appliances and trash and recycling in the 3-foot area, or is that for parking only? In the garages?
Mr. Mosel, that would, only the garages are allowed to, the parking areas themselves are allowed to encroach, not storage or bikes.
Storage and bikes are?
Yeah, no,
But-
not storage and bikes.
Not storage and bikes, not trash receptacles, and not
So that's part of the
washer and
modification
dryer.
request.
Right, they're requesting a modification, which we're supporting,
For that storage as
to encroach into the interior yard setback there,
Okay,
yes.
thanks.
Okay, is that anyone else for questions before we go on to comments? Okay, so who's ready for comments? Keith? Hey, looks like we...
Since no one was
Like
on the
old times.
trigger, gotta be faster next time. See, I think I'll comment on the modifications first.
Yep.
And I think the modification for the kind of service functions on the garage, at the garages, into that side yard makes total sense, given that you have a sound wall right next to it. There's no real purpose to have. The setback wouldn't serve any functional purpose there, really. And I think the request for the modification in the front yard is also reasonable, given the additional setback that the applicant's providing at the creek. I think this once again kind of points out what a wild card backing up to the creek is, and the setbacks there need to be more defined. And also it's reasonable that you're at the end of the cul-de-sac, so it's kind of the terminus of the whole street. It's not like you're disrupting any streetscape, and that only a small portion of the actual habitable space encroaches in there. So I think those modifications are reasonable. I think the applicants responded to the architectural comments. I think architecturally it's well articulated and well done, and it's appropriate. So those are my comments.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks very much. Other comments going down the line, or
I'll jump in just to skip a person.
Paul?
I want to say the front changes to the front architecture are great.
That was, I like the fact that the fence was lowered. That looks good. It'll be pleasant to the street. And then the architecture having this, the porch is more inviting. So that's, the architecture works there. The side along the property line and the 4 inches from the property line, I'm just going to let Planning Commission make that decision. I have a difficulty with it. Aesthetically, it doesn't affect the neighborhood. It's more quality of life for the applicants living there, and whether they're 3 feet or 6 feet away from the next structure or the next building. But from what I can think of is when you have a setback between a property line, and if I'm 6 feet from the property line, my neighbor's 6 feet from the property line, our buildings are 12 feet apart. And there's something like that where when you're 4 inches from the property line and the other guy is, 3 feet from the sound wall, we're really 3 feet 4 inches. The second story, you're 6 feet from the sound wall, and I think that I'm not comfortable with it. So I'll give it to the higher authority.
Okay, Paul, Gary or Chris?
All right.
Gary?
Yeah, it's a tough project. It's a real tough site. And
Mr. Chair, can I do a correction on Paul? Because he thinks we're only back 3 feet from the property line. The second story is back 6 feet.
That's what he said that.
Did he say that? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, I misunderstood.
It's a tough site, and it's unfortunate about the Mission Creek. It's space that the public is not going to view,
Right.
and the public can view. Although it is, Keith makes up a good point that it's at the end of a cul-de-sac. I'm really not in favor of front yard encroachments and a front yard. I don't mind front yard outdoor living space, but I do care greatly about how much space is in front of the building, how much landscape is in front of the building. And one of the things that bothers me on this particular one is how much hardscape is in front of the porch when we have some minimal amount of landscaping to begin with. And there's the area in front of the porch seems to be excessive. Something else that bothers me on this plan, I mean, the modifications are fairly liberal. They're using the 3 foot. They're using the setback space to put appliances and so forth on it. And what they're giving back, the one view that bothers me the most, the elevation that bothers me the most, is the one that's on the freeway, and it's the second-story roof line. The applicant did articulate the roof a little bit. But given the style of the building, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. And I'm really using the reference that the landscape architect had, the color rendering that the landscape architect had. And I think that there's the front portion of the building appears to be, it appears to have some linearity on this particular elevation, and I would like to see some sort of. I like his use of the outward gables on it, and I think the front portion of it could use something like that in order to break it up. But it's really minor. Overall, I'm in favor of the project and the project moving forward.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Just before we hit Chris here, I have a little confusion here. You said that you have 6 feet.
No, I misspoke.
Okay.
It's 6 feet to the wall. You're right.
6 feet to the wall, because I see here that the second story is already 3 feet outside of the.
Yes.
I mean,
I misspoke.
In the setback. Here. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, Chris.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have many comments, but just a couple here. I agree with Gary that maybe that entry walk to the porch could be slimmed down so that the landscaping sort of overlaps the structure and the paving a little bit more. It looks like it's 8 feet wide, the entry path. Mm-hmm. And I think that could certainly be brought down a little bit.
Makes sense.
Maybe to 5 feet, maybe 6 feet. I don't mind the porch in the front area. That's actually be pretty nice, I think. The one area that I'm kind of having trouble with is the driveway and the reinforced grass permeable paving. I know we're all for permeable paving areas and grasscrete and all that. I would just like to see one example that's still alive after 5 years. You know, if this is, you can always replant if it's grass in there, but if it's neglected, it just becomes a really ugly concrete grid, and I want to avoid that at all costs. So I'm curious to see what system you're proposing to use there, and so I guess when you come back, if you could bring that along and maybe show me a photo or a couple examples of areas that are, you know, still living. Yeah, not a problem. I have images. Okay, perfect. Other than that, I think the landscape plan looks good. It looks like, you know, it's well softened kind of throughout. And actually, while I'm on this, one quick question: the back of Unit A, sort of towards the entry of the stairs that go up, is there any way to enlarge that bed a little bit? I guess I could point it out up here. It's hard to tell exactly how big
This one?
that is. Yes.
I have to look at that.
Yeah. A little more substantial planting because there isn't a whole lot of planting in the motor court area here. It looks like we just have some vines. So the greener this area can get within there, the better, I think. And that's all I have for comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Dawn?
I like the project. I think it's the architecture is well articulated, and I liked it before. I like the changes that the applicant made to address our concerns before, and I agree with kind of the rest of the board that it's not going to be seen, but it's nice that we're still seeing some quality architecture. And I think it all will also look nice from the freeway if they decided to trim those shrubs. I think that what you have articulated on the west property line will be nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Myself, I think that for the amount of setback that you have on the rail, I think that there's some significant consideration is given towards what you're trading off that you have in the front, and the fact that this is at the end of Islay Street and it's a dead end. I feel because this is up against the sound wall here, I think that it's good to take advantage of some of this here that you have brought into that side yard setback. However, personally, I feel that the upper floor that is 3 feet into the setback from the 6 foot setback, I would have preferred to see that maybe a little less and not as much as 3 feet. I wouldn't say I think it's okay for me. I have a comfort with it being outside of the setback. But for the full 3 feet, I think that for me, I personally think it's a bit much, and it could have been a little bit less, and would have then. I am just thinking of for the standards that we have and the reasons why we have that. I would have liked to have seen a little less than that. I think that you benefit a lot from that ground floor going out close to the wall. You're not only you're moving storage out there, you're moving trash containers out there, and you're using the whole setback, not some of it. You're using all 6 feet of it, and I think that that's a lot. I think you gain a lot from that. And then on the second floor, I would have loved to have seen your top floor come away from that sound wall and from the highway a little bit more, so that the living conditions of those units inside, it just gives you a little bit more room again from the highway and from that sound wall. And so I would have preferred to have seen less on the second floor going out. But generally, I think that the architecture is a very good standard. And I think that some of the things you have done are very good. I would have preferred to have seen a more hard-covered entry to Unit B. Right now, you have more of a trellis cover, and I would really like to see just that patio area solidly covered in that tiled area there, at least that part. So even if it was something that you could put on top of the trellis and let the planting grow over it and stuff like that, I would much prefer to see that than to have, say, on a rainy day, dripping plants right on the door or something like that. The same can be said for, I think you have more of an overhang right here in Unit C, but I'd like you to just consider those things, that these entries, they're all the way in the back. I just wish that you'd give them a little bit more protection.
Okay.
Yeah. Other than that, I think it's a really good project that you're developing back here, and I think you have some tough conditions to deal with, but I'd like to see you guys move ahead nicely. Okay.
So I think what I'd like is some summary of the scope of architecture and that type of thing for Planning Commission, comments to them, because I think that's what they're looking for, right?
Yeah. So we'd give a list of comments here that we'd pass on to Planning Commission, and
start with the positive ones.
Yeah, I'm open to a motion in that regard, and we'll mold it from there on the motion.
I don't think you can make a motion.
Tony?
Mr. Chair, can you go through the project compatibility analysis comments in the motion?
Yeah.
Can can they do a motion?
We have to do a
We have to do a motion, yeah.
continuance.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah. So
Well, I thought
who would
during
like
the
to
planning commission, they could only make comments.
to start or start molding a motion? And
I'll take a shot at it, Mr. Chair.
thanks so much, Keith.
So this would be an indefinite continuance to Planning Commission with the following comments. Board finds that the project is in compliance with the city charter and municipal codes with regards to design standards. It's compatible architectural character for the neighborhood and the city. It's appropriate size, mass, bulk, and scale for the site. There's no adjacent landmarks or historic structures that are affected, and no public views of oceans and mountains. And we feel that the project has an appropriate amount of open space and landscaping. That being said, we have the following comments. The board is pleased with the well-articulated architectural design. Feel that the mods have no aesthetic impact and are reasonable given the additional setback at the creek. When the applicant returns, the board would like to see examples of the planted paver system. And the applicant's encouraged to study the roof cover at the entry to Unit B to provide more weather protection. Applicants also to study reducing the amount of entry paving to Unit A. That's it.
Okay, do we have a second? And
A second.
second by Dawn. Under discussion for any items at all? Okay.
Can I ask one quick question?
Okay.
Because in the beginning of this project, I did present examples of that particular paving, successful examples of that, of the grass pave, with the brick. So just bring that image back, or
Just bring it back.
Yeah, just bring it back, and
Okay.
and we'll deal with that when you come back to ABR
Okay.
after Planning Commission. Yeah. Okay. So, Antonio, I understood what Planning Commission, they review the video of these meetings, some of them.
It's available to them. if they
It's an
need to.
optional thing. Okay. All right. So, any other items under discussion? Yeah. Okay. All those in favor of the comments, say aye. Aye. Against? One against. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the motion.
So we are on to item 3. Item 229 North Pilfer Street has been postponed for at the applicant's request, and we are at 535 East Montecito Street. 535 East Montecito. Going once. 535 East Montecito. Let's go. Yep, good afternoon.
How are you?
Not too bad. Just in time.
Yeah.
Yep, you could roll it out.
We're a half an hour late, so do you want to just
Run through it.
Yeah.
State your name, make your presentation.
Okay. So my name is Thierry Alicortis. I'm representing SunPower Corporation. We are a solar company, and we have been contracted by CD Ventures to install a solar system. on the Los Portales multifamily units, which are being developed on the 535 East Montecito Street.
Okay.
We are going to we are contracted to install a 48 1.8 kilowatt system, or each of the systems consists of 8 solar modules or solar panels. The solar panels will be mounted on racks. They are all black.
You have details to show us?
Excuse me?
Do you
Yes.
have the details?
Yes. So
I guess we're more considered on the visual, the aesthetic detailing.
Sure. So we have it is my first meeting here, so I was briefed on the previous meeting and the fact that you were worried about the look of the solar panel on the building.
Yeah, and
is that correct?
We had particular areas of concerns on the layout that was presented the last time.
Yes. We have a couple of problems. I mean, not problem, but we are confronted with a couple of issues with this particular project. First of all, is the orientation or the azimuth of the project, which only leaves us 2 roofs open. As you can see, we can only show. Be on a roof which is facing near south, I would say about 160 degrees, or facing about 240 degrees. All the other, for performance issues, all the other roofs are, we cannot install a solar system. It will not work properly because it's facing too much north. So we are limited in the area of where we can put the system. The second limitation we have on those roofs is that the California Fire Marshal issued some guidelines about 2 years ago, which is in regard of the safety of firemen in case of a fire of a building where a photovoltaic system is installed. Now, those guidelines require a 3-foot access path on the top of the ridge and on one side of the roof, which actually even limit even more like the areas of where we can install a solar system on those roofs. Now, different jurisdictions enforce those rules differently. Unfortunately for us in that instance is that the City of Santa Barbara Fire Marshal enforce those recommendations, and therefore it will not let us encroach on those access paths right there. And at this point, where basically we have the systems in the best possible location, and it makes it very difficult to move them around. Number one, for efficiency. Number two, for safety from the fire marshal, due to the fire marshal access path. Now, I'll take a quick look of the site plan, and I do not know. I know that you are worried about those systems being visible for the street, correct?
Yeah, the last time the presentation was made, we had particular questions about certain areas, and we wanted the applicant to come back with specific details to show us how they would be viewed and what we would be seeing. So we're expecting that if we're going to review, I mean, for you to present this before us, we would at the minimum consider that those requests we made at the last presentation are being met with this presentation.
Yeah, I haven't read, like I haven't been given a transcript of the last meeting, or
because what we'd be doing now is we're talking at odds. We're talking to two different people now about the same thing, and things that we would want to say to you is what we said to the other person.
Okay.
And pretty well we see you and the other applicant as one.
Yes, I will be the one handling this project from now on, and I will be following up on this.
Yeah.
The issue of visibility from the street is going to be very. by experience, I mean, it's going to be very difficult for me to give you a picture or a rendering of what it's going to look from the street.
But we
with
asked
the
for
building not being built. For the simple reason, I mean, every system is different, and every system and every installation is slightly different.
Right.
I could, I do not. Unfortunately, I do not have any three-story buildings where that particular type of a system has been installed on.
Yeah. I guess what we did was, or what we did to try and make it easy for the applicant the last time was we pointed out particular areas that were sensitive. Then we asked them to bring back a specific detail, like a section through that roof eave, or a section through the roof eave with the panel and how much the panel stood off of the roof. So it would be a construction detail of how that panel, and as a board here, we have a certain amount of ability to see what that infers aesthetically.
I do have that.
And so these are the things that we'd be wanting to.
So you're looking for a structural detail, essentially. This is a system we're going to be using. It is a.
We'd be wanting to look at the finished panel on it with like a section right through that eave, showing where this distance was in relation to that, so that we could, this is the
specific to this particular
specific
structure.
to this structure. And then if it was off for so many feet, then you'd have this, and then you'd have your panel, and you have your gutter, and specific to this detail of this building.
Maybe if we just asked him what the standoff was, that would help us, and we could look at the floor plan and know how far back it is from the eave, since he didn't provide the detail that we asked for.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Can we just ask if there has been any changes done to this plan since our last visit?
No, that is what I was trying to explain through my opening, is that it is very difficult. I mean, at this point, we cannot move anything around without compromising like the fire marshal's rules, or compromising efficiency on the system.
There was other specific
Maybe I can
questions
help,
asked.
because they weren't printed, so we were trying to look them up on the computer. And these are the comments, if you don't mind me
Yes, go ahead.
reiterating them. The first comment was to return with details of the eave and the gable and mounting, with details like Chris was explaining to you about how far they were mounted on the eave, how far back from the edge of the eave, so we could see that and be comfortable with the visibility. The second issue was minimize the equipment access where possible, and he already explained that he can't minimize that access.
You're referring to the fire department access?
Right.
That's not what that. That's not what
Equipment
that.
access. That's
No,
different.
that referred to the type of tile that they were using. They were changing the edge tile and had equipment access on perimeter of the building or large portions of the building where for walking on, which wasn't necessary. It was only necessary to have access for a ladder point, and they had 30-foot sections of tile being removed for access point, which we felt was
Okay, so that's something
unnecessary.
that's the second thing we asked you to address, and maybe they didn't explain it to you. And then the last thing was the orientation of the panels, which I think he did address about making sure that he maintains the orientation. But so the details and to minimize the equipment access, those were the
I do not. I apologize. I do not really. I mean, I've looked at the plans, and there is no place really where we're removing any tiles for equipment access, and I do not really understand what equipment access you are referring to.
Gloria, can you just read that comment back, because I paraphrased it?
And because I'm sorry.
Investigate rotating the orientation of solar panels to allow for increased setbacks.
That was the last one. What was the one right before that?
Study minimizing equipment service access areas along roof eaves.
Yeah.
That the one?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we were asking for is to address those things. And I
Yes.
think that's why the board's frustrated, is because we just want to move you forward, but we don't have the information.
I mean,
Yes,
really, the best thing for us is that really, if you had a meeting with your owners of the project, and both of you reviewed what happened at the last meeting and what it is that we ask of them to provide, and then between both of you, you'll decide which one of you will provide those details. and then you guys could come back and make the presentation then, and then we'd be covering everything. Because in one way, what we're getting is like one person is being told something, and then somebody else is coming to present something else, and we're only hearing part of the problem, and your expertise is in the panels themselves, and the other ones are the architects dealing with the project, and we're not getting a cohesive presentation.
Mr. Chair? I think there's a misunderstanding. He's understanding that the orientation of the panels had to do with the orientation of south-facing, north-facing, and what we were talking about orientation of the panels is the panels are rectangular, and we were talking about changing some of the
landscape or portrait.
Landscape and portrait in order to have more of a cohesive grid as opposed to the checkerboard grid that you had. Those were the comments that we made, that direction.
Yeah, and it is something I toyed with and I played with. I'm finding two things about I want to warn about changing from a portrait to a landscape. The railing system has a profile, and when you walk in a portrait direction, what you see is the edge of the end profile of the rail, which tends to give you a slimmer effect on your array on the roof, more of a thinner line and a little bit more of an invisible effect. When you go into a landscape, you actually are showing the thickness of the array plus the thickness of the rail, which is approximately 3 inches, which gives you a much thicker line and tend to accentuate like the visibility of the array. It is why we prefer to install arrays usually with that racking system in a portrait fashion, because it gives you it creates an optical illusion which minimizes the visual impact of the array on the roof. So it is why we prefer to work like this. It is true that if you were to fly a plane over the project, we may be able to rearrange the modules in a fashion that it will be more pleasing from an aerial point of view. But from a street point of view or for a neighboring building point of view, you're going to actually increase the visibility of the array.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, I'm not sure you know this, but these meetings are televised.
Yes.
And it might be good for you to go back and watch the last meeting that we had, so that you can go online to the city's website and find video of the entire meeting from the last time, and that might help give you some more direction in terms of what we're looking for. And
sure.
Sure. See, I think you can help us. It's just that the type of documentation we're looking for and the completeness of it, how it integrates into the architecture of the building, you're not prepared to give that kind of information here, and so we're not able to review it fully.
No, for that, I'm going to take your recommendation and definitely look at your past meeting. But for the sake of eliminating any confusion for the next time I come, what will be acceptable documentation as far as me showing you the visual effect? Are you looking at an elevation rendering? Will pictures of a similar installation be satisfactory to you? Could you give me?
It will help. I think first of the things is we need to look at a typical installation. Maybe you would want to show one typically portrait and one landscape, and that illustrates the comments you just made. That would be one good thing. We really want to get these drawn sections that are specific to this building. So if there's an eave detail here that we were concerned about, we want to get that detail drawn with the panel, with how it would be constructed, the right height above the tiles, everything, set back so many, whatever that distance is from the edge, etc., so that we can determine what that aesthetic effect is.
And how it's mounted.
And how
onto
it-
the roof.
Okay.
So we're
Showing
not
on a detail.
the generic details of how you mount a panel is not. It's helpful, but it's not fully helpful for us. You see,
Site specific.
we
Yeah.
site specific, building specific, and an eave, that eave specific. Like if this eave is going to be different from that one, we want those specific details.
Now you want this for every single array or for?
No, it's
For the-
every example that you have of where it's seen from
From the street.
the street.
And we pointed out in the last minutes the ones that were sensitive to us, so you would know that you have to at least get those.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion?
I think.
I also have one comment.
Okay.
And I'll
Let's let the comment first, and then we do
The comment is, we as the board are looking at this project as a review after final. The building that is in front of us was certified gold by the LEED standards, and now the applicant would like to be platinum. And that is the reason that they want to put these solar array panels on. Because of the way the credits and all of the rebates work, they have to have 48 individual, equally sized units versus one PV system for the entire condominium complex. That's the mechanics of how they're going to make this work. But I go back to when we gave this project preliminary and we moved from preliminary to final. If we were reviewing this project and this roof plan for the number of solar panels that are being proposed, we would have altered some of the hips and made more gable ends to accommodate this kind of solar array. Instead, we gave this project approval, final approval, not knowing whether it was going to be gold or platinum. We gave this project approval. So we're in the position now where maybe compromising the architecture and how these panels are going to look in our city in order for them to achieve this platinum status for the 48 individual people, and the building wasn't designed for all of this, for the number of panels that are being proposed. So there's a little amount of caution that we have, or I have, in reviewing this application.
Yeah. And this project is very close to the highway too. So we have a lot of people who will be looking at this project from elevation on top. So that's another thing that I only just realized.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we haven't made that clear in this meeting, but we have in other meetings, is the fact that we want to see more groups of panels that are square and rectangle and not L-shaped and awkward shaped. So that's our goal, I think, is to group them in a more, square and rectangular pattern, and not so many dog legs and L-shaped.
Yeah. I mean, if I may say, I spent a good 10 hours on those plans trying to figure out, a better way, because I do that a lot. The roof areas we are working with are so we have so many constraints that it makes it. We have very, very, very little wiggle room.
And I think we understand that. And that's why we decided that if you could turn one to landscape,
A blend of both portrait and
Yeah.
landscape on the same array. That's what we're talking about. In order to make a rectangular shape. So you would have to have, your bracketing would have to be different for a particular array, but you would have to use a blend and then change your structure underneath it to handle both. So there is, I believe there is a possibility for that to happen on these plans that you have.
I think we should just let you, absorb what happened at the last meeting and take what you hear from here and then come back with a plan of action to present. I don't think we'll be able to solve what you're trying to solve right now without your other party being involved with you.
Yeah, no, I have a clear understanding of what you're asking, and I would like to redirect with a blend of landscape and portrait. We have it is a structural structure on the roof which has to go, which has to pass some structural. Which has some structural constraint. Now, like the rail needs to be at a certain, so it is not doing this is I'll look into it, but it is not the easiest thing to do, and it may not be possible.
That's kind of what we were trying
Mr.
to
Chair,
figure out.
I'd like to make a motion for the applicant, if it's okay.
Yes, it is okay.
For the applicant to return with the most efficient and the most aesthetically pleasing configuration and orientation for the proposed arrays.
Okay.
This includes providing details. This is carrying forward item 1, Gloria, providing details of the eave ends and the gables and how the arrays will be seen from below. And including mounting systems. Details, what Chris is saying is the best way to show that is to draw a section like Chris was drawing for you. This isn't in there, Gloria, but you don't have to write this down. But for you to do the detail in a section view so that you can see what it looks like from below. I'll finish my motion and then I'll make a suggestion. And then carry forward, I think it was item 3 about minimizing the equipment access locations. Was that whatever one that one was? And that's my motion, but I just want to clarify that I think that you could get some of this, if you were communicating more with the architects, they could help you decipher what exactly we mean by that, because they'll understand, they know what we need to see. So if you have any questions, we've kind of gone on and on about that, and I think we can't do any more.
Okay, do I have a second? Chris has a second. Under discussion, I'd like if the motion can say that the applicant is to reference the complete minutes of the last meeting on this project for guidance in what the board would like to see. That would be in addition to your.
Mr. Chair, I would say all previous meetings, because I think they've been here 3 or 4 times now, and it might help just to watch.
Okay.
You know, all.
Fresh memory from past meetings.
Right.
Okay.
If I may take one more minute, there's one question. I mean, I really want to clarify, and I apologize for that. But when you say equipment access, are you referring to the to the mandated fire path, or what is the equipment access?
I think it might be access to get to the panels. Am I right?
Yes, it was for the main. It was actually both.
It's at both.
The answer is both.
Okay. Whatever access is required.
We wanted you to raise it up to the ridge line.
Yeah.
And from what you said, you need 3 foot on one side. It sounds to me like it can be raised to the ridge line, and that was.
No,
Okay.
I will bring like the fireman or recommendation.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Against, motion carries. So we're sorry we couldn't, give you more things, but we just don't have the tools in front of us to do it.
And it didn't help that you weren't at the last meeting and the information was conveyed to you. That didn't help you either.
No. Okay. So we're on to item 4, 826 De La Vina Street.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes? Indefinite continuance here. Back to full board. I think they'll need some time. And 2 weeks is still a good. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. So while you set up there, 826 De La Vina, motion, the architecture is acceptable. Consider changing the material of the site to match the adjacent north building.
Yes.
And provide information about the back elevation of the building. Indicate where window bars are proposed to be removed. Provide details for the awning.
Manson hang up soon.
My name is Henry Lenny Design Studio. First of all, I apologize for last time. I was ready to come and I had no drawings from the LA architect. So I'm here now. Just to refresh your memory, this is what some of the last modification to the preliminary drawings, and we try to follow those things. In effect, what has happened is that this little lean-to here, it's unsalvageable. We discovered that this whole portion here is very much like a mobile home awning. It's just all metal and sheet metal and so on when we discover that. So the best thing to do is to just simply take it down, replace it verbatim with the modifications of the doors and windows, thickening the walls and using the steel windows throughout, so that it, again, the goal was to look very much like this. So let me just go right up to the elevations here if I could. We are using the steel windows. They will have some operable components to them. There's still the double doors here. And this indicates a section through here, basically. This in the future would probably become a bathroom, and so we kept the existing door that is here, and we put 2 new windows in that particular case. One thing on the elevations, there's a note that basically states that all of the clear story existing windows on the building should be restored. They're actually steel windows as well, and they haven't been used for years and years, so whatever bars and everything else, everything would be cleaned up. I don't believe they're operable, but certainly the glazing would be replaced, but the frame will remain the same. In terms of details, these are the shop drawings that we're going to have these fabricated in Tecate. There's a fellow that has been doing things for me for years, and in a very traditional style of architecture. And so the awning itself or the canopy actually, will look like this. And this canopy that I'm referring to is what's going to go right above the 2 entry doors. And the purpose for the canopy in the future, when we have a tenant, is to provide some concealed lighting for the entrances, and then to use torch cut steel letters, whatever the signage of the business is going to be at. But these are actually the details that we have there. These are the details that will occur at the bathrooms if they become a bathroom. We don't know until we get a tenant, but anyway, the proposal is to have the square windows with a single plate glass, but then the whole thing will be concealed by putting some of these grates in front of it. And then just the other details are just construction details that we have. We have full structural drawings now. And so, if you feel that what we'd love to do is to be able to submit to the building department. If you have any concerns about any of this, I can come back on at the consent calendar, or perhaps submit whatever you request.
Okay, just some quick questions here. The side wall that they're referring to here.
The side wall is this. There's an existing wall which would be either painted or stuccoed over to match the stucco of the building and the color of the building. I'll show you what the colors are now that we're talking about that. Pardon me? Yes. One of your requests was to tone down the red and all that sort of thing. And so the thought was that on the first story portion of the building, which is here,
Yes.
we would use this color.
Yes.
For the larger mass of the building, the existing building, we would use the darker color. And then all the doors and windows, the plan is to make them look like steel.
Yeah. Yeah. And just a quick look at the back elevation.
Okay.
And that's this here.
That is the rear of
This is, where's the south?
this.
This is the east. Where's the south elevation?
The south elevation? Where is the south elevation? Unless these are not. You're looking for the back of the building?
Yeah, like facing the
parking.
driveway that goes into the other people. Like this is like this elevation.
Yeah,
this
you're
one
looking
here.
the opposite of this elevation. She didn't draw it.
Oh. Okay.
But the windows are identical to
Okay, those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are no doors on this side.
No.
Or windows.
Yeah, that's the property line actually.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
The windows are there.
So these windows are up here, and these are over here too.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's a sidewall already. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna see anybody here for public comment. Seeing no one, bring it back to the board for questions and questions from the board.
Yeah.
Gary.
On the north elevation, I was looking at your window details for this project, and I kind of felt like the details were Spanish in nature, and I didn't really feel like that went with the.
Oh, you're talking
architecture.
about the bars, the grills?
I'm talking about the grills that you're proposing.
Oh.
Yeah, I think the wrought iron is not really. Yeah, I don't think the wrought iron detail on page A3 is compatible with the design that you have.
Would you feel comfortable if we eliminate the scrolls and then just have a...
In a way, I'd be more comfortable if you eliminated the bars, but
And that's fine with us.
yeah, that's my
Okay.
Are they necessary? I mean, is it a security issue or no? It's just a little more detail. Okay. I have a quick question. Are you, and maybe you just haven't gotten there yet, but are you proposing changes to the landscaping at all? Okay. Just existing to remain.
It's actually quite nice.
Yeah, it's okay.
Other questions on the board? Paul? No. John? Keith? Okay, I had one question here. What's this here?
Well, there was supposed to be bars that would match the thing, but I think given Gary's comment, we'll eliminate those as well, because they're not necessary.
Yeah.
We'll have a plank door there.
There'd be, whatever you do would be just simple like these.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I see the floor plan again?
No questions from you, Don? Or?
Maybe. I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to check that these were recessed.
Yeah, they have to
be.
be. These days, you can't encroach anymore into the sidewalk.
Well, you can't encroach, but if your occupancy was less than 49, then you could have had them swinging in like they were before. But this is a better move.
I think so too.
No questions.
Okay. I just want to ask a quick question. This is not a deal breaker for me or anything like that. It's just a question. Have you ever considered putting a bigger tree here?
I'm trying to talk them into a big sycamore or something
Or
like that.
something larger than just ground stuff. You know, something that would cast a little shadow and give some character to the corner, and it would help because when you look into this, you see all of this interlocking pavers, and you see a little bit of plants in the corner and stuff like that. But something here that casts a shadow with character could be really
Let's
nice.
make it a condition. Let's put a big sycamore or something. I agree with you guys.
Yeah, at first I was concerned about the view angle, but De La Vina is 101 or is 101 is one way going down, so there's really not an issue.
Yeah.
I would love to see a big tree there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think something that's compatible with the existing planting would be a good way to go.
Okay, we have a question from Keith.
Quick question, Henry. Are there any accommodations or plans for accommodations like trash enclosure, that kind of thing on the site, or how's that being handled?
There's currently some areas, right now, if you look at the site plan, there is currently a screen wall that is lettuce, that they keep the trash in here. We can leave that for the moment. I suspect that when the tenants, we expect that this will have 2 tenants. When the tenants come in, we'll have to formally provide something of that sort and then come back to you on it. Although currently the screen wall that is here is to hide all the trash cans.
Okay, so I think we're open for comments from the board.
Mr. Chair, a couple quick comments. Henry. I think just when you come back, or the next iteration should just show the trash enclosure so everyone knows what that is, and then obviously, all the complete architectural details, doors and windows, and particularly, like, I'm just throwing this out there, and I realize this is in progress, but the condition where your new wall is actually coming down. It's going to be at the sidewalk, so it's going to be at grade. So there's going to be some issues there. And then just also heads up on whatever ADA requirements they be thrown at you on the parking, because right now we're not seeing any loading zones or that kind of thing.
Thanks, Keith. Do we have a second?
That was just a comment.
Sorry.
I have a second comment.
Second.
I guess when you come back, it would be nice to just have the existing wall shown on the plan, so we know exactly where that is. And then as far as that wall, it seems that it would match the architecture a little bit more if the cap just came off and it was just a smooth, non-capped wall.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's all I have.
Thanks. Comments again? Terry, Paul, Don? Okay, then I think we're open for a motion. Keith, you want to go ahead? You had
motion that you had?
Yeah, I thought it was a motion already. That's why.
So, would you prefer like a indefinite continuance?
No,
or
I think
2 weeks?
just to get into the building department,
Okay, so
2 weeks is fine.
Say 2-week continuance back to full board with the following comments. Applicants encouraged to study the incorporation of a substantial tree at the corner, show the location of the existing site wall, detail it similar to the architecture, return with complete architectural details, doors, windows, plaster, parapets, that kind of thing.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion. I was wondering, under discussion, if this couldn't be expedited by going to consent.
That's fine.
So then, Henry, you would go next week instead of having to wait 2 more weeks just for those few little things.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So
Okay.
that's my discussion.
That's good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I had one
Yes.
comment.
Go
Can
ahead.
you delete the comment about the tree? I know you used the word study.
A location of the tree there, but the actual scope of work for this project is so minimal to where we had a verbal conversation with him. We encourage it as much as we can, but I'd like to strike it from the minutes.
So you did say encouraged.
Well, I'm just saying he doesn't.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay. All right.
Under discussion, did you say anything about the removal of the iron grates on the iron bars on the windows?
We can add that. Go ahead and
Yeah.
make a stab at it.
And also to add the
We want you to make a stab at.
Just line item.
line item. Could you add that to it? Remove the iron bars from the, I believe it's doors and windows, and articulate windows per other details, similar to the other window details. And also to add the south elevation, I think, on the plan.
Got that, Gloria? Great. All right. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Henry. It's all yours. Take it away. Consent agenda for you. Okay, item number 5, 226 South Voluntario Street.
Mr. Chair, was
Yes.
that motion for Delavina, was that continued 1 week to consent?
1 week to consent, yes.
Okay.
And we're early on item 5, so maybe we could take,
Item 6,
unless it's a public hearing, can we take item 6 out of it?
3851 State Street. Are you here? Yes, we will take number 6. Is that all right, Tony? That's not a time certain.
Well, it's a new item.
Oh, it is?
We don't know
So
if
we
we'll have
can't-
public comment here. Maybe we should wait
Wait?
until 15 minutes before the scheduled time.
Okay, okay. So we have to wait. So that means we have to wait another.
5:25.
Okay.
To wait another 20 minutes?
Yeah, can we call to see if these guys are on their way? Justin Van Mullen. Sorry. Reopen the Architectural Board of Review for January 24th, 2011. We are at item number 4, 826 Delavina. No, we're number 5, 226 South Voluntario Street. And I'll just start with the minutes here while Justin comes down here from his rush over. Overall, the board is supportive of the site planning and architectural design of the project. Look for opportunities to introduce additional fenestration at the first floor to provide additional light. Study the fenestration of the second floor, third bedroom to minimize or avoid potential privacy conflicts. Look for ways to reduce the height by minimizing the second and third floor plate heights, and provide a preliminary landscape plan. And both of us will absent. Okay, Justin, I think Dawn and myself were away the last meeting. Just quickly give us a quick brief here and then go through it.
Well, there is a third story portion of the project, so there was some compatibility information that was shared last time around. The site is very deep. You can see that there's a lot of mass around as far as different buildings. The third story element that we're proposing is back at the very back of the site, which is it's over here. Gives you an idea of just kind of what's happening in the neighborhood. There's a lot of mass, a lot of second stories, and we are proposing to have our second and third story portions in the very back. These are both 1 story. And then we have an existing hedges about 20 to 26 feet on this side and on this side. One of the questions was for us to look at the locations of the second story windows, and we did that. Our second story windows are pretty much right in this location here. Mm-hmm. Our third story window is set way back, and it's more of a clear story. They have a deck that's right in this location here, and then they also have 2 windows that are in this location. So it seems like they're not right on top of each other. They're more offset. Mm-hmm. But this gives you a real good idea of here's the third story element, and then it's completely blocked from the street from this large 2-story existing apartment building. And then as far as the other massing in the neighborhood, everything is 2-story. There's that deck, and then you can just the existing hedges that we're going to keep are so thick that I couldn't photograph it, but this is the downspout, mm-hmm. and then you can just barely see the window that's right here, and then there's another one over here. And that's on this building right here. And that's right in this location. Mm-hmm. And the deck is right here. And that's that hedge that happens right here. I went out and measured it. We're keeping everything. It's pittosporum kind of mix, and it is 20 feet more on this side and 26 over here. And then there's an existing tree that you just barely see that's right here.
And you're keeping that vegetation?
Yes, because of its location, it's almost within 1 foot of the property line.
It's all of these here?
Mm-hmm. That we can keep it all.
You're keeping that?
So the vegetation we're removing, there's orange tree and a mature avocado.
Okay.
So the board was looking for ways for us to reduce the height of the building. Let's see, is there any changes on the... No, the only thing I think I changed on this plan was I relocated the garbage over to this side. It was back here, but it just seems like such a trek, and since the kitchen is in the front, we have it kind of over in this area now. And that's the elevations of the garage right here. So basically all the development, this is about 225 feet, so it's way off the street. And so we have a one-story garage, and then our new units here. So the request was to look at our plate heights. We had a 9, a 9, and an 8. We've gone to 8 foot, 8 foot, and 7 foot. The recommendation was to use scissor trusses. There's scissor trusses in this location here. And then this is a split pitch. It goes from a 7 and 12 to a 5 and 12 right about in this location. You can see that happening right here. One of the questions I had for the board is, Gary had mentioned like to have this roof mass broken up. We've got a 4x4 kind of a deck window made by Velex, I call it. And it opens up. It's a clear story. It's happening in, let's see, this area right here, approximately.
It opens that way?
I looked at doing a dormer, but the dormer, if it's going to meet solar ordinance, can be no more than 4 feet in width to be an architectural projection. And it just seemed even with 6-inch overhangs, now you only have a 3.5, and it looked very small on the elevation. So we went with a clear story window instead. We've kind of helped with this is a new element, this belly band that we've kind of added. And then we're using, Sherman & Williams has a great list of colors that are some of their oldest colors that were used for the arts and crafts period, and on the like Aladdin homes and the Sears and Roebuck homes. So we've taken historic paint colors and kind of blended them in. The materials are hardy board for the horizontal, and the vertical is a hardy board as well. We've kind of done a tighter board and bat to be a little bit more playful as far as our spacing. And let's see.
So these are all...
Oh, the windows. We added some more windows. This was added here, and then I think there wasn't anything on this elevation, so on that first floor, because it's so close to the...
That's the additional fenestration there?
So additional fenestration in this location, and I believe, let's see.
And that unit is which one here?
That unit is right here. So I think we added these two right here.
What changes did you make to the second and third floor fenestrations to minimize the privacy issue? You pointed out where the windows were, but since I wasn't here, what changes did you make?
Well, they asked me to study it to see if there was an issue, because I didn't know at that point if there was an issue.
Oh, so you didn't make any changes, you just showed us where the windows were?
Where the windows were.
And what's the window sill height on those windows that face the neighbor?
They're I believe they're 36. So they're lower.
And they're second story windows, so is the neighbor's.
Yes, and they're both second
close.
story. They're offset, but they are. It's right, shown right here.
put it over here.
I kind of just penciled it in. So these are our windows, and these are their windows.
And where's that window on your floor plan? Right.
It's
On your floor plan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second floor. These
These
windows.
two. Oh,
These
those
windows
two.
right here. So we could have them up high. I just need one egress window. That could be this window right here. Or maybe I could change it up with the one that is closest to those two. Could be a smaller window, or it could be.
I think that's
obscured.
this one is
That
really
one.
this is
That
it.
one.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you could look at this one, and
So this could be obscured glass. It could be fixed. It could be.
Fixed doesn't really change the privacy issue, but we can comment on that. And then the landscape plan.
Landscape plan is last.
okay, go ahead. You finish
So
your
the-
presentation.
So landscape plan, very last sheet. So we're just looking at this area pretty much from here over. We're keeping the existing pittosporum hedges, as we talked about. We've added some nice height with some larger silk floss tree, acacia trees, some then some kind of ground coverings, plants, and photocarpus right here to kind of create a little bit more privacy right in this area. So I believe the deck is right here, and you can kind of see their deck. So these are more cylindrical, yellow longleaf, and then creating a patio back in this area here with just some vine work, and then we added trees in this back area. I believe this is acacia, and kind of to create some separation between the two properties. And then a DG area here, a DG area here. This is that required 15 by 15 common yard, so we have a path leading up to it. That's about it. This is all. It's pavers, just concrete pavers, two different colors, the cream and the brown, kind of a 50% blend.
And this is a concrete driveway there.
Yeah,
now?
this is existing concrete and just ends right here.
Is
And
it gray concrete?
yes, it is gray concrete, and we wanted this to be permeable.
Interlocking.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with that, anyone from the public would like to comment on this project? Seeing no one, bring it back to the board for questions. Keith? No questions?
No.
Gary? Chris? No? And this, okay, my questions are, this is all, this is
This
siding?
same hardy siding.
Same hardy siding that you're using here. Okay, and the colors would be, I guess, complementary to whatever you're using over here.
Yes.
That's that building here. Okay, hardy siding, garage doors too?
The garage doors would match the other garage door that you'll see right here. It would be a composite wood.
That's like that?
Yes. Like a.
So would we have like a panel door like that?
Yes, it's going to
As
try to be
opposed
look like a carriage
As opposed
carriage
to
door.
like that?
They'll match. This obviously hasn't been detailed as the
Okay.
other building, but the
but it'll
garage
match
doors
that one.
will match.
It'll match that one. Okay, which is fine. Okay, I have no questions, comments, and
I had just a few because I wasn't here last time, so I
Dawn?
apologize. But just on the elevations, I guess it's just me because nobody said anything about this in the minutes. But I'm just seeing that it looks like a 3-story box with no. You were calling it arts and crafts.
Well, it has
but-
some arts and crafts flavor in it with the belly band and it has.
What's arts and crafts about it besides the materiality. Really.
Well, it kind of has more of a farm, like back. These lots had buildings like this in the very back. They were larger buildings that had steeper roofs. Sometimes you'd have some board and bat on them. Sometimes you'd have some horizontal siding. So we did a playful rendition of the two. And
the front buildings are
And
like
this
that?
is one of the front buildings right here.
yeah, that's one of the front buildings. And
That's
and
the
then,
back of one of the front
right.
buildings. Where are the other photos of the front buildings?
Right over here. And so this
This
has this,
one?
yes, kind of a steeper roof, but it's got a
And then where's the
hodgepodge
other building?
of style and
This is right over here. Here's one of the buildings, right?
right.
And where's the other one? The second one.
The second one is in the photos that I handed in that were
Can we see those, Tony?
my 11 by 17.
So I'll keep going with my comments, but
It's the existing architecture on the site is kind of, it's a mix.
yeah, I guess what I'm already seeing here, and I'll just fold this so I can look at the elevations and then look at that, is I'm seeing horizontal siding and then vertical and then a scallop detail at the plate. So
And
there
we-
is some articulation, even in massing. I mean, this is a one-story building, so it's a lot easier to look
So
kind
here's
of
our
charming.
here's
There's
the
your
split pitch. Here's our vertical or horizontal.
But I see horizontal everywhere, and I guess my comment is, I'm just looking for,
We could go with horizontal on the second story. We considered it.
even on this one-story building, there's a covered porch, so there's some shadow, where you've got,
We've got this covered porch right here.
where is that on the other elevation? Right here? That one there, okay. I'll see if anybody else has any comments. And again, I'm
and I
kind of
can-
coming in late in this, so
I can
don't-
show you what we've.
Let me just finish, Justin.
Sure.
I like the color palette. I think that'll be really nice. And I always hate bringing windows up just to satisfy privacy, but because you had that other two windows in that same room, it might be nice as a neighborly gesture to raise that one and maybe look at that as an opportunity to make it a positive element on the exterior somehow. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work, but it is a nice gesture when you can do that. And then my only other comment is on the site plan where there's the little private yard areas. And this is one thing that always, where is that? Oh, landscape plan would show it better. This is one thing that I always try to look at, and that's, on this one, for instance, you have to come in one place that is from the driveway to even use this space. And when you don't have an access from the inside of a space to an outside space, they tend to rarely get used. People don't want to be in them because they're hard to get to. And so I'm just concerned about this long access.
We have this right here. This is a sliding door, and there's just a couple stepping stones to get to that space.
Oh, okay. I see that now.
But the unusual part is that
Yes,
it's a common yard, but they don't say.
Yeah.
They don't, never tell you how it's used. What we have is we've got this very large area here for this
that one's
unit.
got that.
Plus, they have an area here. This unit has an area here.
Okay.
And then they've got this area. And
So
This
really,
one does have
so
that
really
one.
this is for these guys. In
Yeah,
use
it
with that
is.
gate there.
It would be a shame it's just a shame that it's right next to their kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect dining area. It has east exposure for putting a breakfast table, and yet there's no access to it just because there's a counter there. If you could,
And it's protected by the garage from the other people.
yeah, it's really
So
private.
a really
and
nice
I know
area.
it's supposed to be called common, but
Well, we've got this location here, and the window is kind of in that space. So it's.
I know. I'm just.
It's.
And I know I'm sounding really.
I would prefer that whole space to be used by that back unit. And
Yeah, well,
it probably will.
You don't. Yeah, and so you could make it somehow accessible. I mean, for somebody to say, "Oh, let's go sit on the patio," okay, you got to walk around the corner and then walk all the way back around again. If you could have a door here, it would be usable
Would have been
space,
great, yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
And then,
it's just,
like I said, my other issue was about the massing, but I'll see what everybody else has to say because I was not here the first time.
Okay. So, others on comments?
Sure, comments?
Yeah, Gary?
Yeah, first I'll comment on the skylight. It's unfortunate that I didn't catch the solar ordinance. I should have caught that. That's why you made the roof design like that to begin with. And that's unfortunate because it sure would have looked a lot better with the dormer on there. But
I have a question on that. You know, I was reading the solar ordinance, and there is an exemption, but I've never used it. Maybe you could help me. The exemption talks about shadowing, and if you're shadowing into an existing parking lot, that there can be an exception granted. So we could do a gracious shed dormer.
yeah, I think you should look into it because how it looks right now, it screams for something. It
Okay.
screams for an architectural projection right there. And I'd be okay with it even though it's tall. It's 225 feet back or whatever it is back, so it's really a long distance from the street. So, you know, this is where that structure should be at. And the neighborhood, you know, we've got large buildings around the neighborhood, so I think it's completely, as far as size, bulk, and scale, I think it's compatible. I'd like to talk a little bit about the siding and the coloring that you chose. The Sherwin-Williams colors, they're great colors. I've used them before, and I've checked them out before. The only thing that I see that I'm finding a little different is the third-story element being the darkest color as opposed and lighter colors dropping down. I think that should actually be an opposing way where the heavier colors should be dropped towards the bottom, giving it more of a strong base as opposed to the direction that you're going. I also think that the horizontal siding on the third-story element is too much. Horizontal siding on the first two floors would be all right, but as we get up to the third floor, it should either be a hardy shingle or it should be something in the direction of the board and bat that you went. But the way that you have it, it's too much, and you should break that up a little bit. And that would be my comments.
Thanks, Gary. Chris?
Yes, I have landscape comments. Actually, Don, could I borrow your chair? Don? Thank you. Or maybe slide in or something. Thanks. I have several landscape comments, actually. I think this plan is a little bit lacking. There are plants in the legend that aren't used, and there are some on the plan that aren't in the legend. So I want to clarify, I guess, specifically what these vines are and how they're trained on the walls and et cetera. It's overplanted in some areas and underplanted in others, and there's some strange sighting. We have flax right up against the foundation here of the garage, and we have this, pelargonium, which gets to be pretty wide, very fast growing. So really, you wouldn't be able to walk through here the way this is shown. And these are also very low, so we have no vertical other than a tree. Same thing back here. There's a lot of this pelargonium that was used, but this is going to be pretty shady back here, I think, if I'm not mistaken, with this huge hedge.
Right.
So that's not a good plant choice for there, and there's no vertical to it. I mean, this plant only gets to be maybe a foot high. These stepping stones, I think, are too far apart, and they should be pushed away from the building a little bit more and given a steady rhythm so that they're comfortable to walk on. And that way this clivia could be pushed out a little as well. We have an aloe arborescens in here, which is a 6-foot plant in a 3-foot bed. So that's going to end up being chopped at and not very attractive eventually. And then we have a very small plant here. It'd be nice to see something a little more vertical next to the house, such as a vine or just some kind of vertical planting. And then I guess So I think this needs a little more development and thought as to, where it's headed with the landscape here. Another thing I was noticing is this is window from here to here, and that you have a fence kind of going right down the middle of that. I think it would be good
needs
to
move over.
push over, so you're not looking right at that blade. Oh, I guess you do have your trash here, but you'll figure something out.
I can move the trash.
Okay. And I think that's about it. So I think you need to kind of re-examine a little bit the planting types and
palette
and locations of those plants. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Keep a list of that. We'll come back to you in the motion. Okay. Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few quick comments. I think that bedroom number 5 window, I'll leave it up to you on the treatment on that, but with the obscure glass, so you can just maximize the light, I think is a good idea. One thought in responding to Don's comments about the access to the open spaces, you could always just flip that, and then you'd have the living area facing that with, sliding glass door or something. But again, I'll leave that up to you. I think if you can do the dormer thing and sneak under the solar ordinance, that'd be great. I'm okay with the skylight. Again, I think I'd leave it to defer to your judgment on the colors. I mean, the flip side of Gary's comment is the dark color that you've selected for the smaller third floor blends in with the roof color. So I don't think that's a huge issue. And if you wanted to do the vertical siding on the upper level, I think that's probably a good move. But other than that, I think it's ready for preliminary.
Okay. Thanks, Keith. I think the colors are great. I mean, I think they work really well. I agree with Dawn. I'd like to see some more character in the building, in the paneling, and so, again, one suggestion would be going those verticals to the top portion. Personally, for me, I mean, I say some detail at that band, not specifically scalloping, but if you could look at that, but to me it's not a deal breaker. The biggest thing for me with the deal breaker is this difference between this and that. I think to me it's just not enough to do what you're trying to do.
You're thinking like a 4 and 12 to a 7?
Yeah, I really think that if this is what you stuck with because of this, then you really have to sacrifice something here and make this more architecturally. And I think that once you make that a significant break here, the putting of an element in here down to that line is really going to make that more of an architectural detail instead of trying to put a box or a hole in that top portion, because now you'll have a really nice break that you can actually make an element work.
Like it's meant to be there.
Yeah. So I would ask you to look at that, that massing, to look at that. I agree with the privacy of that window, so whatever you can do to kind of ensure the privacy in that other neighbor, in that one window, it really would be beneficial. Let's see. I think Chris had some really good ideas. And I really agree, at least for the workability of the building, and I think for whoever's living there, that if they had a back door that came off of that kitchen somehow, I think that they would really feel the quality of that unit would go up a lot, But, I mean, that's not a deal breaker for me, really, because it's not, doesn't affect the whole neighborhood kind of thing, that sort of thing. I think it's, I'm just suggesting that would be a good way to go.
I like the way it was put, kind of a winter and summer space.
Yeah.
For outdoors.
Yeah. Okay, so
just one more.
Yeah,
I just
go ahead.
realized something. There's no window in the bathroom anywhere. Is that intentional?
That's up in the third
It's right
floor.
here. It's right in this area, and I think that's supposed to be that window. Am I right?
Yes. That's
and there's no window or skylight in the bathroom. So When you work on this split pitch and carving into that to make that work, you might want to look at how. I mean, it's a huge bathroom,
But no natural.
but you've got a headroom issue over here, so this doesn't seem quite right there.
Yeah.
And no window.
Yeah.
We could put one over the toilet without a
Yeah,
problem.
you could put one or maybe not over. Yeah, you have to draw an elevation. But and it just
Okay, so you
I
will
like
want to
his
note
comment.
that, maybe some natural light in the upstairs bathroom would be
Number 4.
really something to look at.
And I'm sorry, I just noticed something else. This door that you have shown somewhere else doesn't show up on here, Justin. And this is the only access to that patio.
Yep.
It's there's a lot of room here. If you move that up, you could get more access.
I'd already printed the colored elevations and noticed that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just the floor plan looks like you could really look at how the spaces are used, and it might help you on your elevations. So.
Okay, so we want to bring that when you come back with the elevations, if you'd want to show that. Okay, so I think we're open for a motion, and we would want to include Chris's landscape comments. So
I'll make a motion for, this is indefinite, right? Because the environmental assessment isn't done?
Tony?
No, the environmental assessment is complete.
So
I'm going
So he could make
to make it 2 weeks
2 weeks
anyway,
is,
because
yeah.
we had some issues, but then it could be on for preliminary.
Could it be preliminary final? Is that possible?
Oh, if you were going to have all your construction documents done.
We'll have the ones that are necessary. That's our plan.
You could try for that. I mean, I don't know. It's up to you.
At
It's up to Tony.
some point, we'd like for the motion to include the project compatibility comments, not because it's going to Planning Commission, but just because it's a 3-story building, and we want to make sure the record shows that you considered those compatibility analysis issues.
I think that I could make that statement right now on the motion. It would be a 2-week continuance back to full board. I guess we could wait for the compatibility in 2 weeks and make that at that time, but at preliminary. But I think we can make that finding. And my comments would be to further study and articulate the split pitch, and look for ways to continue to refine the window and door locations, confirming that the elevations in the plans coincide. Introduce, or let's just say, study an introduction or vertical siding on the 3rd story element. Continue to look for ways of introducing character compatible with the 2 existing 1-story structures on the property. Look for ways to provide direct access to the outdoor living spaces on the rear unit. And I guess I covered the dormer window issue when I just said to study the fenestrations with regards to character, so I don't need to necessarily add that. Did I forget anything? Oh, Chris, and then
Chris's
if Chris
landscape.
seconds it, then maybe he can add his
Sure.
landscape. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one. The address the privacy on the rear west facing. Is it west?
Bedroom number 5 window?
Bedroom number.
Was that bedroom number 5?
Bedroom number.
Keith said bedroom
No,
Bedroom number 5.
3. Number 3.
Bedroom number 3.
This one right here.
Okay, yeah.
It's the south. It's the southwest window on bedroom number 5.
Did you mention the bathroom window?
I made a blanket statement about the windows just to look for ways of
Got it.
using them. I think Justin got that, and I think he knows what.
Okay. Okay, and then for landscape comments.
Are you seconding my motion?
Yes, second.
Second, and then under.
And then under discussion for landscape, I would say re-examine landscape plan overall to incorporate a greater variety of planting material and material appropriate to for the sizing on the site. Also, reconfigure stepping stone path, to accommodate normal walking movement. I think that's kind of overall what was just to re-examine this plan. I think it needs some help. I don't want to necessarily require that you have a landscape architect involved, but a landscape designer. It looks like it was kind of thrown together, and so I think we can do better. And then the only other thing was to relocate the fence and gate between the garage and the proposed building to the north, so that it's not in front of the window. And I will include also to consider using a vertical planting element on the north side of the garage. And I think that is good for general statement.
And then under discussion, just to add, provide revised garage elevations with accurate depiction of the garage doors. There was something else. Okay, and also I think what I'd like Justin to do is, because we're going to make compatibility analysis at the next meeting, I'd like you to bring composite elevations, if you can, across here, so that we can see this 3-story in relation to your project, and possibly if you can show it like what's here, and what's here, and show us a kind of outline elevation in terms of massing, so that we can make those compatibility findings for your 3rd story for you.
Not a lot of detail, but just
not a lot of detail, just the
more
massing.
like a section cut.
Yeah, like a like a profile, like a skyline profile across.
You know what we don't have? We don't have, that I can see, any adjacent structures.
And that's what I mean in terms of making compatibility.
Oh, the overhead view you had. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I've got 3 different full-size plans of all the site for compatibility.
So what I've just asked to be added to the motion here is, because we're going to make compatibility at the next meeting, he'll bring a composite view of these elevations of the 3 buildings across here, so that we can see how the 3rd story pops up, and then also across this way the neighboring buildings in relation to this one. We need to have that record of how we make that compatibility.
I don't have a problem with having him, just because we normally would ask to do a composite elevation at the site, but on this project, since he has 3-dimensional colored photographs, like an aerial, it's.
But do you have good photographs of this one and this one?
Yeah,
on each side of on each side of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole
We've got photos here. We've got all the photos of this building here. It's I've got 3 different pages that talk.
And this building's so far back,
Okay.
Chris, it's
Okay.
not right next to.
Where are they?
All right, I'll accept that.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you'll bring us a composite of these 3 buildings. Is that it?
If I have to, I will.
I think you should.
These, I would be willing to. I think it's fair to ask for a composite longitudinal elevation through the site.
Okay.
He's already shown the adjacent structures. I'm not sure at this point, since we're so far into this project, that we need to have him do. Okay.
I'm fine with that. Show the composite to the site, and just make sure that your photographic information on the surrounding properties around this is good enough for us to make that finding. Yeah. Okay?
Just a question. Last time, you weren't here, but the board was willing to make the findings last time, but decided since there was a few tweaks to the design that they were going to hold off. mostly because we were lowering the plate heights. They only asked me to lower it 2 feet, and I lowered it 3 feet. So I really worked to
So
do
you've
that.
done something already. That's what you're trying to say.
Right, and I just want to make sure it's not this hearing that you're going to make the findings. It's the next hearing, and
Did they actually make the findings last time, or they were ready to make the findings?
they were ready to make the findings, and then during the motion they said, well, let's hold off on making the
Okay.
findings.
Well, okay.
And let's make the findings next time, and that way we'll be making the findings on a set of plans that have already addressed the issues that we wanted addressed. These plans do address those issues. There are still some modifications that I need, which I'm fine to do. I just want to make sure that
Well,
next time around.
here's the deal. I understand what you're saying, and I understand that you've made concessions already, and I understand the previous board was able to do it but did not make it. The fact that they did not make it leaves this board open to making it next time, and we'll just have to take it into consideration. Probably most of the board already feels comfortable with it, so it may not be an issue, but I understand what you're trying to say. It's just that once we haven't made it, boards change, and once you whatever the next board is, they're open to making the decision. So they're not tied by the previous board that said it might be okay. You know what I mean?
Sure. That's
But
my
but I know what you mean.
It was only 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Chair, can we call for a vote, please?
Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chair, I'm going to excuse myself.
Because he asked you to do
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to make compatibility and then ask for the information.
Sure.
It may not be an issue, but at the same time, I have an obligation to tell you that and not give you the wrong impression, because it would be something we're telling the public that they can do, and it can't work like us. You know what I mean? So, we've had a few cases like that already where boards have changed and the project comes back.
That's why I want to be back here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You have a set.
Okay, so for our last item of the evening, so we're at the 3851 State Street.
Everybody I know, man. It's kind of going around right now. All right. So I'll start doling out. There's some small scale that's handy, and I've got large scale too.
Okay.
Site photographs and hold on to this.
And then he does a long That's a
Okay.
Some coverage over there.
Panera Bread side. Okay, so this was the bank building?
Yes.
This was okay. You want to just press that button and put it closer to you?
Yes, sir.
And turn this one off. There you go. Just put that. And all the presentation should be over here for the cameras.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't need that set because there's only 4 of us.
Okay.
Yeah. So you
There
can just
is-
present it.
So there's a full size color elevation on this set.
Okay, put it on top of this then.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Put it on top of this. Okay, and this is a new item.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're in La Cumbre Plaza.
Correct.
This is State Street. That's
Yes.
the old bank building there.
Yes.
That's where we're going. So somewhere down here is like
Baja Fresh.
Baja Fresh, and okay. All right, go ahead.
All right. So we're going to be coming in as a tenant improvement to do a new Panera Bread Bakery Cafe. It's 3,689 square feet. We're also proposing to do an outdoor patio for outdoor dining. There'll be a little bit of reconfiguration of this parking lot. Beyond that, I'm sorry. Yes. This one here. Push. Yeah, push the button. All right. I'm gonna maybe flip these open so that we can do this. Okay. One item to note, a decision that we've made, the seat that is shown here along the drive aisle. Got it? Okay, so we're actually going to take this seat out because when we visited the site earlier today, we were noticing the amount of traffic that's driving back and forth here and how close you are to that traffic. So this seat just seems excessive. So that's we're actually going to take those two chairs and that table out and just have the seating over on this side of the building. But otherwise, yes, we are going to propose a trellis, a Spanish-style trellis over the patio for a little bit of shade and features, with also some outdoor seating, a little bit of reconfiguration of the parking lot. We are eliminating 2 parking spaces. We did walk the site today, and we did a count of the parking and just confirmed with the seating that we're going to have now, minus this seat, we will be below the 50% threshold, and so we do feel we're adequate with parking.
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question before you continue there? Did you look at the La Cumbre design guidelines?
We're now familiar. Yeah, there's some errors in the signage shown on these elevations, and we do know that they need to be revised. So, regarding the signage, is that what you're asking?
No, I'm just regarding the design of the building.
We don't review signs. That's a separate. That's a separate issue.
Yeah, we did. We actually had conversations with the landlord and worked directly with them.
Do they have that checklist that they give us, showing us that they reviewed the plans and?
There's a checklist, a design guideline checklist that's been approved by the city for the La Cumbre Plaza Mall. Okay. And all the projects that go through this checklist. Okay. And we should be given a copy of that, checked off by them.
You know what?
Which
I'm
one has been reviewed?
Our contact changed. It was Tim Ball, and then all of a sudden it was Andy Greenwood, and I'm wondering if maybe he didn't know that. I'll have to follow up with him.
I don't know, but it's pretty major. It's pretty major for every tenant in the.
To be noted, we do know that we're not going to get any kind of final approval tonight, so at least we could have some city comments, if nothing else, for this evening, as to how you feel about what we've got, and then I'll ask Mr. Greenwood and find out about that because he knows we're here tonight, so I'm not sure, and he has received elevations and layouts from us, and he knows we're coming, so I'm not sure.
Okay, as long as you know where our board is.
I'll follow up with Mr. Greenwood and find out where that is and what we need to do to satisfy that requirement.
All right.
So I'll write that down. Or you're noting this. Thank you. Okay, so the basic concept obviously is there's some facade renovation here to kind of note that it's a Panera Bread. We are going to go to stucco from the existing cinder block to kind of update the look of the center, which is kind of in following with other portions of the center and the updating of the look. We are proposing facade renovation here. We are still keeping the Spanish-style roof. I think it's called the mansard roof. We had been requested by the landlord to do so, and we are doing that. We are doing a little bit of a facade renovation on the corner of the building to kind of create some brand identity. And that one doesn't have an elevation? Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You guys want to come over here? I'm sorry about that. We will definitely make sure that is taken care of next time.
Yeah.
There's a color version, right?
Yeah, and we have a color elevation too. So with the patio seating, we do have some windscreens that we like, kind of some cedar shutter windscreens that we like to put up too. Creates a little privacy, creates a little protection from the wind and weather as well. And last but not least, this is kind of the back side of the building, which faces kind of a parking lot in the church. Doesn't really have a public facing, so there's really not much going on back here. It's where the service corridors are and the trash enclosures and all that kind of stuff. But we still show it, of course. That kind of shows the trellis coming out here. And then last but not least are the color elevations, so you can kind of get a feel for what Panera is proposing.
Are these fairly accurate to what you're looking for, color-wise?
At the moment, yes. These are Panera brand colors that we're showing, and this is really just kind of a light facade color. It's not, anything radical that we're going on. And we know that we're expecting comments, and we're expecting. I wouldn't.
Don't look at that.
Yeah, don't worry about the sign sizing right now. We're going to have to redo the signs, so just ignore.
That's right.
because we know that our sign company misread some of the sign criteria, and we know that we have to do some resizing. Yeah, so we're aware that that's going to change. So, but anyway, so this is kind of the facade renovation that we're looking to do so that we can kind of create some brand identity on that corner and be noticeable. And then that is the other elevation. We're actually going to keep the, we kind of took a look at the existing bank windows and mullions and such, and it's actually a weather-protected, double-framed system that they put in for the bank, and so we're going to keep it because it's really nice, actually. So, but anyway, so when I brought
is this that? This?
Correct. That's for signage. Yes, that's right. And then this is to show you, to give you an idea. This is not representative of the color, but it's representative of the material. That's the backing. So that's the aluminum backing that they utilize for Panera signage.
We don't even want to look at sign.
You don't care?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Sign review. Go through sign review.
Okay. We'll do.
Make sure that your sign person reads all the requirements.
We'll do. Yeah. We'll have them do that.
Because you have a lot of work to do before.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, that's what we're proposing, and we know that we're here on the first round to obtain all the comments you want to give us, and then we'll begin the process of working it out, obviously. So
okay,
here we are.
Great. So seeing no one in the audience for public comment, I'll close that portion, and I'll bring it back to the board for questions. And I will start from the far west. Or Gary, if you're ready.
A couple of questions I had. What kind of stucco finish were you planning on that?
I'm trying to think the exact. I'll be honest. I would have to follow up with our construction team and confirm what exact material they want to use, and I can get that information for you.
Okay. And the same thing with the color palette. You didn't have any color chips or anything?
And I'll be honest with you, the color palette, I can get you those color chips. There was, at the last minute, literally recently, there was some discussion with the landlord regarding the colors, and we're going to actually have to confirm. We just want to see if you have any concerns with those colors, and we can get you those color chips and those paint samples in the next 24 hours even.
Okay.
May I ask, do you have any concerns regarding the colors? Or?
Yeah, we'll give you the comments.
Okay.
We're just going to go through the questions, and then we'll revolve around the comments.
My cold seems to be getting worse throughout this meeting. Yeah, me too.
Kind of trying to figure out what's happening here.
Yes.
Looks like we're kind of
So what this is an access ramp, and then this got the warning, the little domes that kind of that let you know that you've got a.
And then this is another ramp up to this area.
It's kind of it's like a little grade change. So like you've got the ramp coming up, and then that kind of comes back up to the surface of the sidewalk at the curb height.
Okay.
What was that?
Oh,
The gate closing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the elevation here is the same, so the real divider between the handicap spot and the dining area is these little
Those screens.
cedar.
Yes, that's correct. The cedar screens.
And
That's right.
why are these tables? What are these?
Yeah,
larger-
so what I have, and maybe this will give me a little more clarification, with the details that are provided. If you can see, there's the cedar screen and a little booth that is connected to it. So, and we do use those at several locations. We found them to work really well. Kind of creates a nice feel.
Okay.
Okay, and then this planter you'll be utilizing for
Correct,
additional
yes, yeah.
replanting.
Yep. And we may actually, we're open to any opinions or considerations you have about landscaping. We're very pro landscaping.
So yeah, we're definitely going to want to see you maximize green.
We're
around
thinking
this.
about doing some vines and stuff on the back wall and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're going to do maybe a vine on the trellis. Just want to, what would help us is because you're going to be far more familiar with the climate here and what would work best. So maybe if you have any suggestions, that would be nice.
Well, you're probably going to have to get either a landscape designer or a landscape architect on board to make those decisions.
And we can do that. That's fine. Yeah. Just sometimes, a lot of times with these, we do get some heads up on things that work really well or you've found that have worked well at other locations.
Okay.
Okay, that's my questions.
Dawn?
No questions.
Yeah. Okay, I don't have any questions at this point. Oh, no, I don't. So we could go into comments.
I'm ready to go into comments.
Yeah. Dawn, comments.
I think your biggest issue is going to be looking more closely at the design guidelines that that La Cumbre Plaza has already established.
Okay.
And I know you said you've already worked with them, but
Yes.
The biggest issue that I see is that you're trying to make some major changes
Right.
on one part of the building, but then not on the other part of the building. So, and what are going to be their expectations of you in terms of compatibility of the design within your own space?
Right.
Because what you're trying to do here, I think, is really admirable in terms of trying to make a statement for this corner
Yes.
and get rid of the mansard roof and kind of
Right.
and I see what you're doing in terms of trying to meet the requirements of the design review guidelines.
Right.
But it stops here.
Right.
And then everything else you're keeping, including these really heavily tinted windows, which do look like a
they will
bank.
not. We will not have those heavily tinted. We want people to see into our space. So while we're going to keep the framework of the windows, we have no intention of keeping those tinted. We want people to look into the space
Okay.
and see people dining.
Okay, so let me finish my comments.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Then you've got stucco that it looks like you're picking up on whatever light color stucco that you
Right,
want here,
right,
you're picking
right.
up here, but you don't have it here. So my first comment is, I should say my second, because the first one was how you're addressing this part
Right.
and not this part.
Right.
And then the other comment is, I think that this, the header between the transom and the storefront is not enough space to introduce plaster.
Okay.
It just would never have been done that way for a Spanish-style building. And if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like that's the direction that you're going and that you're being asked to go.
Right.
So that's one issue. Then I think that this whole corner element, like I said, although admirable, is too large.
Okay.
Because this roof steps back.
Right.
So not only are you increasing the height of the building from here to here already,
Yes.
then you're adding another roof on top of that. Now, I don't know what this line is. It might be a roof line way back, but I don't see it
Right.
up here at all.
Right.
And I think that this whole element, I think, needs to be brought down to a more user-friendly scale, a more human scale. It's just, to me, too large. And then I guess the last comment is maybe a little premature, but the detailing of what these lines mean and
What the materials are.
and what is that,
Right.
and the fact that this crown molding comes out way farther beyond the face, and then I'm having a problem with that. I'm having an issue with the darker color of it, with this extension, with this detailing. I think in a broad sense,
Yes.
it's looking at this element for not only for scale, but for compatibility with the rest of the architecture that they're wanting everybody to go to.
Right.
And it's really, I notice you don't have a local architect, which doesn't help because you're not so familiar with the detailing. So
Right.
you might, it's going to be a little extra harder for you to understand. But I would look at traditional Spanish detailing, and for instance, this arch, the proportion of it and proximity to this molding detail.
Right.
I'm not even going to touch the signing, but I will let you know that a sign this, even anywhere near this large, would not be approvable, and I don't think that a backing like that would be approvable. I think you're probably better off doing cutout letters, and because I'm on the sign committee, I just wanted to give you a little bit of advice on how you might look at that. Not as a big billboard type sign. You'll never get that approved here, but just look at that.
Let's just finish with the comments.
So those are my comments.
Chris, you're standing right here.
Sure. I think Don had a lot of good comments there as well. I keep looking at this, thinking this is supposed to be sort of a portal in an entry, and all we see is a blank wall.
That's because there is a blank wall there.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that. Yeah. I'm seeing that. But it bothers me. I'm not an architect, but anyway. So I'm wondering, is this fence, does that extend all the way down? I think it shows it that way in the plan.
That is patio railing, that's correct.
Right.
And I would have to look at the layout to confirm that.
Oh, it does stop there.
Yeah, it
Okay.
stops.
I see. So what I was going to recommend is that we, again, find wherever we can to incorporate green, some greenery. Maybe if you're since you're taking this out,
Yes.
this might be a planter, and so that wall might be okay without any additional windows or articulation.
Right.
You know, right here is a good spot for a little planter. I was thinking that extended out. So maybe this sidewalk doesn't have to be so wide, and you might be able to get some planting, you know, a strip in here.
I'd have to check with the architect to make sure that we're ADA, so, you know, obviously
Right, exactly.
we'll have to be compliant, so.
Oh, that is only 5 feet there, so
Yeah,
you
I don't
probably
think we
can't
can-
do that. Yeah. Okay.
I think we don't get to touch that.
Okay, but it looks like you could get something here, maybe.
Yeah, we could definitely maybe do some kind of a plant right here or something.
And maybe here.
Yeah.
But wherever you can do that, maybe this becomes some planting.
That's something that's absolutely feasible.
So that's going to be my only general comment, of course, is to just green it up as much as you can.
Sure.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks, Gary.
So now we're on this page. The only one thing that I see on this is that just give us a color for these truncated domes.
Okay.
So we know what you're proposing.
Okay.
What color would you propose?
Terracotta. So pretty much the same points that Don hit is the same thing. The element here shouldn't really be changed.
Okay.
As far as stucco goes, it shouldn't be stuccoed in between there. I actually am going to go a little bit farther. Although I agree with you that it needs a corner statement,
Yes.
the one that you chose, this particular design, this square design, it's just any mall USA, and it doesn't meet the Spanish architecture that we're looking for. Proportions are incorrect. Styling is incorrect. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work with this building. This is just a complete foreign element to this building. So go and restudy this element. Study the Vaughn's building. That's right in the same court.
we looked at that.
Look
today,
at that.
actually, yeah.
We really worked hard with them for months on that in order to get them close to the element, and that was a difficult road, and I don't want you to go through the same difficult road. So study the elements that they had there and try to incorporate some of those elements on this design element. And there are other things within the mall that you can really look at to see and get it close to that area, and then you'll have a project that you can do. When I mentioned what kind of stucco that you want, Spanish lace or Philly lace is not something that we want. A lot of people think that that's a Spanish style. And really what we look for is smooth textured stucco. And because it wasn't noted on the plan, that's why I brought it up. You should note that.
We'll note it.
And this little element right here, make sure that when you propose ironwork, it also is architecturally correct. That the ironwork will, the wrought ironwork will go with the design that you choose.
Okay.
And just the rest of Don's comments, and that's it.
All right. Thank you.
Do you have a suggestion for a corner element that could work well?
Not right now.
Not right now.
Okay. Yeah. Let me.
Something you've seen elsewhere in Santa Barbara?
Well, they're all over. But really, I think what you should look at is the design criteria. That book that they give you is it's a really good resource.
Okay. Yeah. We'll check with Andy Greenwood and see what he's got.
Okay, so I think all the comments, I think some of the other members got into some specifics, which I think it'd be really good for you to follow up on. I mean, they're all correct. What I'd like you to realize is that you should not take those specifics to mean that is all that's wrong with this project.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you, I think that my feeling is that you were ill-served by guidance that you've already received from the mall.
Okay.
Because it's a specific document. It's a huge document that went through a lot of review. And this corner of the mall is a gateway corner.
Right.
And
We're
in the
aware of
gateway
that.
corners in this mall, they're specifically designed or they're supposed to be a heavy emphasis in a particular style on the gateway corners.
All right.
Right? And you know, this project does not seem to be following that guideline at all.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at even this corner that they've designed here, that's more in keeping with the guideline that's there right now.
And we did see the
And I think
facade
that when they did a design charrette of this mall, I think they may have also included a kind of a design that they would use on that corner. And you may be able to actually look at that and take it as a guide.
Okay.
Not that you should go that route, but it's telling you that this is a gateway corner. So this is like one of the most prominent corners in the mall when you drive in, right? Yeah. And so all the emphasis that we have asked for different things around the mall, this is like almost the biggest one, in a sense. The other thing that I noticed in your corner detailing, when the corner emphasis has a lot to do with your signage.
Yes.
And you've paid great attention to the signage and the size of it and how much you can see it. And really, it does not, it pays more emphasis to the signage than it does for the pedestrian or the building itself.
Okay.
So I would say that when you design the corner of the building, you have to be careful that you are not taking away from the pedestrian concept, because one of the things I noticed is that the mere fact that you have these large columns here, it has no indication of how the public walks from State Street and gets into the mall. And normally the route is that they try to come up this way and get to this sidewalk and go up here. And yet what this does, it kind of adds these big elements into the corner, which does not make it any easier for anyone to traverse up here. It narrows everything down. It sets this into a hole that really is not really useful in trying to open this up as a walkway, a pedestrian walkway that goes up. So it almost becomes an obstacle when you bump into this corner.
Okay.
So it's stuff like that. The building does not have the Spanish detailing or the architecture that it's required of these gateway details.
Okay.
I think that the styling of it is, again, you know, it's not what we're asking for in the guidelines.
Okay.
I think that they're all right. What we're looking for is, and when you do read the guidelines and you do get into the style we're looking for, we'd like to get authentic detailing of your guardrails, just as the others have said. And all the other points that they've made, these are all good points, and you'll need to take them into consideration. But you do have an overall fairly large problem based on this presentation.
So we need,
it's the
we need
wrong
to have
direction.
the landlord provide us with that checklist once he's reviewed this, and
Right.
that needs to be provided to planning before we see you again. Is that correct?
Well, it should be submitted along with this presentation so that we can look at what's been ticked off, and because we're going to go through it again. Like, for instance, to do this properly, we should have a copy of the guidelines in front of us, and then we should be going through it and seeing where it complies and where it doesn't comply. And if you do that in advance, you'd be ahead of the game. Put it that way. And so.
All right.
Okay, so.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
The patio. Do you like the idea of having the patio built out as an extension?
No, it's great. That's like, anything that's really pedestrian. I mean, and this is a mall, so you have a little bit more freedom than out on the public street.
Sure.
So you want to max that, I mean, if it's good for your business, it's good for the mall,
Right. And Panera is very big on having outdoor seating at their location.
and hey, that would be.
If they don't get a certain level of outdoor seating location, they'll kill it.
Yeah.
Because
No,
it's a requirement.
I think it would be welcome.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to point out on my set of plans over here, this railing does extend all the way to here. So I don't know which one's right, but maybe
Okay.
just.
We'll clarify that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, structurally, I think the two changes we're making to the exterior of the building are one, the patio, and two, this corner element. I think the corner element, I mean, there's an allergic reaction to it. I understand what it is, so we'll try to, propose something that fits more Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and well, you're speaking away from the mic, but here's one of the things you have to realize: that because you're only making this change and this change, that does not mean that leaving this the way it is okay.
Okay.
The fact that you don't need to do anything to it does not mean that that's the right direction.
Okay.
You may have to make it all into one, to
Understand.
make it all work. You may have to do work there, and you have to consider that as a whole.
Right.
Okay.
I do have a question. As I look at like the Baja Fresh next door
Yeah.
and the other uses next door, they have none of those elements. They're just stucco. And so my question
But
is...
there's a compatibility. There may be stucco. There's a compatibility because they're using this white and it's stucco and they have certain block elements.
Yeah.
But then again, they are not the corner building.
No, that's
They're
fine.
not
I
the
just-
gateway corner.
Right.
They are sandwiched
Right.
by the two gateway corners. And what we try to do with the mall is not constrain them for every tenant space.
Okay.
You see?
Okay.
So we're trying to make it simpler for them and more economical.
And Chris, would they be open to allowing a new tenant to move in without doing any exterior alterations?
I don't
That's
know
why I
that
think
one.
you should talk to them, because if what we're going to require from you from an architectural standpoint is above and beyond what the tenant is willing to get into, then you have to. I don't know whether you may be allowed to move in without making any changes at all. Maybe it's the fact that you start making changes at all that kicks you into that higher level of compliance with the new guidelines. So I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah. We could give you a guidance after, but we need to move on and get our...
If we can just, because we're behind.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Go ahead, Dawn.
This would be a
Indefinite
continuous back to the full board with the following comments to study ways to incorporate a cohesive architectural program and with authentic detailing.
Utilizing the mall's...
Utilizing the mall's guidelines. Yeah.
Approved guidelines.
Especially the proposed corner element with regards to size, proportion, function, detailing, and location. Kind of said compatibility with design guidelines, so I thought that was kind of style. Look for ways to introduce landscaping wherever possible, and return with, I don't want to say feedback, I want to say return with comments from the La Cumbre Plaza prior to returning, or along with your next submittal. You don't have to write all that, Gloria. Just return with. And then the last thing I had was clarify locations of proposed fencing. I don't know, did I cover everything?
Indefinite continuance?
Yeah, it was an indefinite continuance.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, we need a little time.
Second by Gary, under discussion. Gloria, just before the guidelines, just put the mall's design guidelines. Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, the board would look for authentic detailing and traditional details.
Right.
I think I said
You may have said that.
authentic detailing at the very first item.
Okay, then that's once is enough.
Yeah, we've got it in our notes.
Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, motion carries. Okay, so we're going to adjourn, and then we're going to, give you any kind of feedback. So that's it for the evening. I'd like to adjourn the